G'day, welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by old man hosting himself, Algared. How you doing, mate?
Well, according to my watch, I've had an hour and a half sleep and my heart is racing, so...
You don't look it. You look all suave. You're all...
Yeah, well, I figured, when you're feeling crap, you've got to fake it.
Fake it till you make it.
So, that's right. Fake it till you break it.
Till you break it? I think the saying is till you make it.
Yeah, that's true, but in my case, it's fake it till I break it.
Oh, to the heart just... Oh! Yeah, let's hope not. Let's Humpty Dumpty could not be put back
right.
together again. Right.
That's right.
Right. Did you have a good week this week?
It was a busy week. We had our swimming carnival on Monday, which got cancelled due to wondrous thunderstorms. That made for an interesting day, because we had to actually evacuate from the pool. So, yeah, other than that, it was a regular busy school week. So, yeah.
Okay, well, let's kind of have a look at the stuff for this week. We had this pop up. Oh, sorry. That's, we had, I'm just going to call it Valentine's Day. I don't like the fancy names they come up with, Carmora or whatever they want to call it. Fish People Day. But
Carmora just reminds me of Adam's Family,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, my disher. Come on.
Yeah. So I did get a chance to get in game and check these ones out. They're actually pretty nice. I was, how do I put this? They also brought out the Super Hornet with the Love Struck paint, and ironically, I almost love not the Love Struck, the Heat Seeker. I actually prefer the Love Struck to the Heat Seeker.
You mean the Heart Seeker?
Yeah, because it's kind of black and it kind of it's different things are gonna speak to different people, obviously. But that's my personal take on it. But you and I will be having a look this weekend at what we'd like to call supplemental. We call them supplementals when they're like little short things that we do as like an added bonus. So we're going to release.
We're hoping.
Sorry, go on. No, I was going to say we'll probably do that to slot in with next week's video. So that'll probably come out like Thursday, Wednesday, something like that. Just because it's not worth doing a full review on the last series of a full set of ships. Like, I think you'd agree, Algared, what, like 80% of this is going to be the same as the other Hornets?
Yeah, well, it's fighters, so our general review is they are shit. And yes, I know, I have a Guardian now.
I think that...
And it's still shit.
I just want to clarify. They're not shit. They're just too bloody expensive for what they do.
Yeah, and that's why we say they're shit, because fighters are generally, when you're paying cash, just too expensive to justify what they are. I was at the Bar Citizen on the weekend, and I was fortunate enough to win a Guardian, and I got a bit of flack from others who were telling me, "You're on record saying it's shit. Are you going to melt it?" I said, "No.
It'll just upgrade it into something
because they cost so much.
It'll just upgrade it into something else."
Knowing me, I probably won't, because
keep it.
You know what I'm like.
Oh yeah, we'll do some CCU chain. We'll find something else there that you want, maybe a double POV or something, or a ship down the line. Yeah. There's definitely more ships coming down the line. You might want to turn.
That's right.
Yeah.
And eventually there may be stuff that that breaks my will to have them all, just because
it breaks my will to live to CCU. I thought you were going to say breaks my will to CCU. Yeah.
But we do call them supplementals when we expect they're going to be small. So hopefully it's only a short video when we do it, rather than a full blown usual Inforunners jaunt.
We do have the Paladin giveaway as well. I should open that and show that real quick. So if you go on to
YouTube,
watching me do all the stuff in the background. So if we go into the YouTube studio, and look at it was right there, the tier list video. If you leave a comment on, how do I go to
on the tier list video?
I just wanted to go to the actual video. I didn't want to go through all this shit. There we go. That'll take me to it. If you go to this tier list video and leave a comment, all these people left comments, they will be in the running. Now, obviously, if I can't get in contact with you, that makes a problem. So make sure that there's an easy way for me to get in contact with you. I'll usually like to reach out via email or Discord. I will drop a comment to the person that wins. We'll do a random comment picker. I think I said I'll leave it maybe for a month or so. And whoever Whoever gets that. So you'll get yourself a Paladin. Because as Algared said, they gave us the Guardian to give away. We're not big fans of the Guardian, so I just spent $50 and upgraded it to a Paladin to give away because they never gave us a Paladin to give away. So I don't think it's bad if I take their Guardian and turn it into a Paladin to give away. I think that's, I don't know. I think most people would agree the Paladin's probably a better. Algared, I put that to you. Would you, if they cost the same, would you prefer a Paladin or a Guardian? I know what I'd prefer.
Because they're small ships and I wasn't buying anything last year due to the finances, I didn't really pay too much attention to the differences. So, well, I did when we looked at them, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
because it was so long ago.
Really?
I'd be a liar. I'd be a liar if I said I could remember.
Okay, right. I'll just show you real quick because I think you'll be surprised. So there's the Guardian.
All right.
And oh wait, I'll do it a side on one as well. There we go.
Yep.
And then
the Paladin was a big one, wasn't it?
Paladin is a lot bigger, man.
Then I'd go the Paladin without a doubt.
Well, it's a $50 difference, but essentially, you're talking. What I gotta do?
There is no difference. There is no. Yeah, it's you definitely go.
It's no contest. Yeah.
There's no contest. You go. Yep.
Yeah. Considering there's $50 between the two, you're essentially going for a 1-person ship to a 4-person ship.
Yeah, that's insane.
There's just no contest. And I think anyone would say that you'd be crazy. Like this is another really good example, and this puts 2 combat ships, so they're in the same vein. This is a really good example of how overpriced some of these ships are getting. And don't worry, when we talk about the Super, you know what we're going to say, because that thing went even more expensive than I was expecting.
Yeah.
That is literally a medium fighter that has the price of heavy fighters. That is nuts.
Yeah, that is insane. The version 2, a $50 increase or a $55 increase or something like that. It's
55. 55.
Yeah, it is sickening. Like, I already thought, to be honest, that the Super Hornets, the Mark IIs were, or the Mark I's were overpriced for what they were.
Right.
And it was hard to gauge because we still didn't have the armor characteristics in. And now I expect that the Hornet, being a ship that is supposed to be fairly heavily armored for what it is and fairly tanky, is going to have its heyday. But I still can't see it being worth what it was. And then to bring out the Mark II and jack up the price again, and I know they did that with the other Hornets, it just had that horrible taste in the mouth, you know?
Yeah. Look, we all know it's a means to an end. But again, I think whenever you're spending these vast sums of money, we all like to make smarter, educated decisions. And when you know the earn down economy, like people can argue that it's not a thing because obviously right now it is very advantageous to have a single seat fighter. But as we are now moving into Pyro, already in that very short period of time, I think most people would argue is you can start to see there's this pull away from the fighter meta already. I think it's the way I'd explain it is it's gone from like the smaller ship meta to we're starting to go into the medium ship meta, right? And I think as the universe gets bigger and bigger, it's going to become more an advantage to have not just bigger ships, but like imagine like a Liberator is a really good example. And it'd allow you to take a couple of ships with you, deliver them to another place, and not have to fly backwards and forwards a couple of times. And so if you can have a ship, Kraken's a really good example because you could just take all your mini fleet with you. And take it somewhere else. So you might not always be able to man your really big ship on your own, obviously, but the ability to have a medium ship that, like, I don't know if you've seen it, but like just going out in a Spirit or a Zeus or a Freelancer or one of those other medium ships just has so much more versatility right now than taking out a single version. You know, like it just got a bit more flexible, and some of the fighters are incredibly squishy now. Now that
Jock Cop in chat picks it up. He says engineering gameplay is going to push it, push that large ship meta, and it is. Like,
absolutely. I think he's right. That'll turn it on for sure. That'll be the first big step towards it. Yeah, sorry.
Like even when you're in the Polaris at the moment, and you're doing the group gameplay, it is good.
Yeah.
But when you get the relay management and the fuse management and the other engine in gameplay, that's just going to push it. You can already see that, and the fact that you can actually bring back dead components to a usable state just by repairing, that type of thing is also going to increase that gameplay. So multi-cruise ships with the internal components are going to trump squishy ships with external components.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So good thing to look forward to. All right, last thing I kind of want to go over before we kind of get into the questions. Just want to double check we actually got any questions. Yeah, we got like 3 questions coming in, so a few more coming in if you want to get them in. I want to go over this with you real quickly. So just like the next 10 seconds of this video, I'm going to mute it because we don't need the sound. But I'll just make it like that. I went ahead too forward. Before you look at this, I want you to there's 3 things I want you to spot. And I want you to tell me what you see. Right? I'm looking for you to see 3 things. Yeah, I'm not expecting to see all of them. But I'm likely. It's a test. I like to test you. Yeah, so this is me testing you.
And you know how much sleep I've had and how I'm feeling. So
right. So it's all right. It's all right. You're only to be mocked for all eternity if you fail. That's fine. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Just tell me what you can see. There's 3 things. It goes for about 10 or 11 seconds. It's just this one scene. Right, here we go.
Ships, bike.
Right. What did you see? Tell me.
I think I saw flak, a Polaris, a Perseus, and a bike.
You did see a Perseus. Good job. You did see a Perseus. That's a very good job. That one on this one up here is in fact a Perseus. But the one thing that you missed that I was really surprised was this.
Star-Kitten outfit. Yes. Okay.
And I noticed everyone, man and his dog, was talking about the Perseus yesterday. Nobody noticed this. And the other thing I want to point out is if I go back a couple of frames, is it's also on the bike.
Okay.
And how long has it been since we've had a Star-Kitten? 14? That's a long time between drinks.
Well,
you tell them why the Star-Kitten's important. I'll let you.
Oh, Star-Kitten was important because the initial Star-Kitten was a Star-Kitten on a Dragonfly. It was done as just a fun thing, but it was so close to the whatever it is, the real world thing, but it seemed like there was a cease and desist. It seemed to be what gone on.
I don't think it was a cease and desist. It just kind of stopped and never came back again.
It was just really close to that. It was either bordering on, we can't do that anymore, otherwise we're risking copying it, or they got something like that. That type of.
The other thing is, if I play this though, there isn't really much. Like it literally does have the cat though.
Yeah. The outfit has a cat.
Yeah, but the thing is though, you can't copyright a cat. Like they could probably come after them, but realistically, they wouldn't win, right? Yeah. Because it is just it's similar, but it's not the same. It's completely different.
It looks significantly different enough.
Yeah. So what I'm actually hoping though is they actually do bring back the Dragonfly Kitten as well.
And I'm
wondering,
many people miss that.
I'm also wondering what event this would be for. I'm also wondering, is it just the Mirai Pulse and a Mirai Pulse outfit, or is it a slew of the bikes?
Is it a bike racing event, or
who knows? So there's a lot of questions there, but I think we'd have to also argue that it's in the next patch. So in the next quarter, I think would you safely say that's probably a safe bet?
Yeah, look, it always a safe bet. Just when you see something like that, those kind of sneak peeks, ideas of what's coming or possibly coming. I'm pretty certain, like someone said in chat, Star-Kitten merch, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put Star-Kitten merch out because it's been so. I don't get it, but it seemed to be popular. Like I know early on they talked about flat cats. That was one of the pets they kind of talked about. It was talked about so much that in SCA it kind of became the thing. So
It's not going to be to everyone's taste. Nothing
No.
ever is, but there's obviously people that like it. Like, there's a lot of people. Like, there's only 2 things I ever really missed out on this, and that was a scythe and the original Dragonfly Star Kitten thing. And if I could go back and do it, I would. But I think eventually what this is pointing to, I don't think they will bring the Dragonfly back, by the way. I think they will make Star Kitten a thing you can obviously earn in game, and they want to roll that out to other bikes. So if you look at it from a sales perspective, people keep asking for the Dragonfly. Okay, well, you can't get the Dragonfly, but you can get a Pulse. People will buy a Pulse just to, you see where I'm going with this? Like, they can see the dollar signs. So they're probably going back and looking at old stuff that they did that made a lot of money. No, it wasn't $400, Lemming. It was it cost, it was 10 if you got 10 referrals. The problem was when they brought it out, a lot of people had already tapped their referrals, and what a lot of people did was they actually they made 10 bonus accounts and then just brought themselves stuff like $40 worth of stuff and then gifted it back to their main account. So they just circumvented the whole system. So that's why it's argued that it cost $400.
And it was at a time when credits actually had the same value, so there was no war bonds. So I did that. You know, I basically made the accounts I needed and bought gift cards, and then gifted the gift cards to myself after a month.
Yeah,
because I knew I was going to spend those credits on stuff going forward.
I'm just double checking that I didn't miss anything. This real quick. I did go over this whole video with a fine tooth comb, and there was one other little thing that I found that I just want to share because it's content driven, and they're talking about stability and fun and change and all this stuff. And there was one particular scene. I actually wrote it down. Hang on, what's the timer right here? Hang on.
Any show that's got Dave Haddock on is always good value in my view.
152 is what I wrote down here. So just give me a second. All right. So they're talking about so watch this guy here called Dev7. And I don't know if it's a bit dark on my screen, so it might be too dark on yours, but watch his legs. Quality. They actually it was that bad it drew my eye. Did you catch it or not?
No, it was too quick. And remember, I'm also looking on small.
All right. So what happens is his legs basically, I think Lemming's here, I can hear lots of background sound. He starts to ski. So I'll just pause it there. So that position that he's in, he will just continue to move sideways with his legs hanging. Did you see that?
Yeah. No, it was too shadowy for the screen I've seen.
Well, you watch it on your own video.
I'll watch it on my end and I'll see it. At the moment, it was just too.
Yeah, it's fine. 1 minute 52. But I just thought it was kind of funny. But they're the only 2 things I noticed in the whole video. Anyway, now that's said and done, I do want to go talk about the elephant in the room. Lemming, you obviously want to say something. What do you say, bro?
No, he's not here.
Someone's making a really loud. It's just you making a loud noise then. All right. The Perseus, right? Now it's appeared. A lot of people think we're going to get it at Invictus. I think it's copying the Polaris trend. And we know that they put 8 people on the Polaris, but they're also this year doing this, the Ironclad, and the Pioneer. I think that means they're spreading more people out. And why would you put 8 people on this and get it done in half the time when you could put 4 and do a better job and take their time? And exactly like what happened with the Polaris, we got shadows of the Polaris early on in the year, like the silhouettes. Then we got the outside at Invictus, and then we got the final thing at AIE. I think that's exactly what's going to happen with this. And I know you agree with me on certain things that I'm about to say. Like, we've noticed the way they are building ships is becoming very patternery. So I don't know the word to say it, but there are patterns. Like, we get a medium ship at CitizenCon. So we got the Zeus, the Spirit. We get the starter ships at the end of the year, and then the following year we kind of get the variants. These are kind of like on a bit of a rotation now. So I don't know. Do you think that's the credence now? They want to try and have a big ship once a year type of thing at AIE.
Their modus operandi would be, or does seem to be that. Now, I agree. I could see them following exactly the same thing they did last year. Now, does that mean they are?
No.
Does it mean we're not getting it? Does it mean they could? Could they do it for Invictus? Absolutely. And you haven't even discounted that.
No, I haven't.
Based on what we think the pattern seems to be that this would follow the same pattern. So
the last we heard that this went into production pretty much straight after the Polaris, and knowing that it takes 18 months to get these things done, even if it's done by the end of the year, that's only 12 months. So that is quite, and that accounts for its size and maybe putting 6 people on it instead of 8 or whatever. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But there are other ships out there too, like the I was going through this with a few people. If you look at ships that essentially came out they talked about going into grey box or white box 18 months ago. The Ironclad, based on what he said, Ben said to us, the Raelian and the Apollo. I would say they're probably the 3 biggest contenders for Invictus. There are other hurdles to that, like the like possible drones for the Apollo. But I think the Ironclad and the what do you call it? The Raelian, they have smaller ones. So essentially, if you look at the Raelian, it comes down to how the cargo is stacked. If you think about how you stack cargo at the moment, you stack cubes on top of each other. Essentially, though, when you're doing triangles on top of each other, it just means the second row is rotated to go in between the other one, and all of a sudden they become, so it's 2 rows that become squares instead of 1 rows that are squares, if you get what I mean. And we already have the stacking tech of boxes. It's just they stack in different directions. So if you work that all through, it's not that much hard to change. It's essentially just the directions which the boxes are stacked. And you work that all through. I think that's probably the smallest amount of work, because the other part is, if you go over to the Ironclad, is also the Ironclad Assault, and the Ironclad Assault needs the fabricator thing. So if they were going to do the Ironclad, they would probably say Ironclad and the Ironclad Assault is later, unless you think different to that.
No, I was about to say they do the Ironclad and they do the other one later. Some people are saying, Ironclad for Defense Con, which makes sense because that's where Drake, they always want to get into the show. They never get invited because their ships just aren't really considered up to snuff for Invictus.
So it's not ruling them out. It's just saying what are the possibilities, right? And I think as time goes on, we'll see those. As it gets closer to Invictus, it'll go down a bit. I think we are all riding on a bit of hopium saying that, because they know as well as we do, this ship was so well hyped before it came out. It stayed there. It's never really settled. I actually think if you look on the tracker, there's a really big spike that literally says Perseus. I'll see if I can find it real quick.
The only thing that really was the negative on the Perseus was the price. Everyone who I knew who loved it, like Badgers was a classic example. I love this ship. It's awesome. It's my jam. It's just way too expensive for what it is. Especially when you looked at it, it was what?
You and I are no
different from a Polaris.
But once you're able to get it for a decent price, it's quite good.
Once you use wall bonds to get that, it became really nice.
I can zoom in here. So that's. Oh, this is just an image. I actually need the thing. I need to go find it. I might have to go find it later. But there's a thing where you go through the dates and you can actually see it per ship, and that's what I was looking for. And so this is just the best in. Maybe it's this one.
That's just the best in show.
Hang on. This might be it. I'd have to go. It's going to take a while because they're. Oh wait, I can do it. Oh, now it's bugging out for me. No, stop it. It's not the easiest thing to zoom in with, because it's got this little thing. What if I just hit house? Will it reset for me? Yes. All right. How many years ago was it now? That's the other part.
They all blend into one, mate. I've stopped trying to work out what year it was. I'll do it within a 2 or 3 year span. It was 14 to 16, somewhere around there. 13 to 19.
Yeah, see, if you go like this, it zooms in on it, but Anyway, if you find it yourself, and it looks like something's about to crash, you can actually zoom in on it, and it actually says like RSI Perseus on one of these, and you can clearly tell it had a lot to do with it. I just don't remember what year it was, so I'm not going to be able to find it now.
Yep.
But I've seen a photo of it on Reddit or something like that where someone was talking about it. But it was, yeah, it was a very well received ship when it came out. I think, excuse me, Redeemer, Paladin, 4 people, 5 people on this type of thing. It's one of those bigger ships, but a smaller krill analogy. Half the people essentially in it in a hammerhead, but it's a hammerhead size. You can see where I'm going with this. We don't know the full drawbacks of this, like you and I and Badgers did when we talked about this. I'm picturing it having quite a like really strong fire, but really slow fire rate. And I think that will be its Achilles heel, because like the bundle they sold it with the 2 arrows, it clearly is going to need to work with other ships a lot.
Yep.
But really big ships, it's just going to kick them around like they're a plaything.
Yeah, I imagine it. We know from the lore that they released, that as to why the Perseus was brought back into production, that Admiral Bishop had a couple of old Perseus in his fleet that took out a Vandal destroyer, and that made him go, yeah, I want more of these, and so RSI brought them back into production. But other than that, we don't really know much about it. We know they're heavily armored. We know they've got size 7 guns. We know they've got
there it is.
Different cargo or different ammo types.
I don't know if you can see it. I'll try and zoom in on the actual page now, but it actually says RSI concept sale starts, and look at the peak.
Yeah.
The highest peak in 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a popular one. I think we're all secretly looking forward to it. Even if you own a big ship, like I know people that didn't own a Polaris, they still love the Polaris. I think we can all take joy in these bigger ships coming into the game and playing things in as a group, and I'm all for it. No matter what the big ship is that 890 jump, whatever it is that comes in, it's always a good event to just see. Oh, cool, there's another one scratched off the list type of thing. Yeah. And I don't mean scratched off the list, but like added to the game. You know what I mean? Every ship we get closer,
well, it's nice to see the backlog of ships or the list of ships that are in production get smaller. So scratching off the list, I get the reference, but
yeah.
But yeah, it is a popular ship. It's a ship that lots of people love. I still don't think it's necessarily one for being being your frontline fleet ship. To me, it feels more like a planetary defense or local system defense ship.
I think that's the thing you and I have worked out by now. We can work out a lot of stuff from reading the stats and all that type of thing, but until it's in game, you are never 100% sure. We can get pretty close, but we can never ever be perfect. And I don't think anyone can. I think the only people I think somewhat when they're designing these ships, they're still kind of working those things out themselves. Again, leaving things vague is a great way to not lock yourself in. So.
Yeah, well, but the law team do that, leave things vague. They do paint the borders and leave a detail, so so it can be filled in, because otherwise, if they tell us everything, A, it becomes restrictive for the builders. B, there's nothing for us to discover. So it's a win-win for them if they build the structure around it, even if they know what the story is. If they don't tell us and they just breadcrumb the stuff for us to find. So okay,
right.
Question.
Go for it.
Is a galaxy without modules worth it?
That's probably how I'd buy it, to be honest. I think me and Algared talked about this quite a few times. We almost treat most modules like they are fighters. You've already got the ship. You're going to be working on it anyway. You're essentially going to be rep grinding. The only way I think we would probably say is don't get one of those. Only get one of those modules if it's the only ship you kind of own type of thing. If you've got another ship that you can use to earn money for that one, That's how I'd do it. Because if you've already got it and you're already going to be playing on it, aren't you making kind of rep for it anyway? So you're going to naturally be able to unlock the modules and purchase them. That's my foresight. I'm pretty sure you agree with me on that one.
Yeah, in general, do I always do that? No. When I originally bought the Endeavor, I bought the Endeavor Super Pack with all the modules. I since melted that and put back that got rolled into the Invictus pack, and then I did pick up other Endeavors that didn't have modules because I had enough modules to actually equip the extra Endeavors. And this is a bit of the same. I think I may still have the Galaxy with the modules, but the idea was that it'd be melted and rolled into one of the bigger packs. But generally, the modules are like fighters. If you look at the price of the module individually, they're cheap. And even if the price of those modules was to increase 4 or 5 times, they're still in that cheap.
I think there was only...
They're still in that range of... There
was only like one module. Was it one of the mods got to like 220 or something like that? And that was the only one we ever looked at.
For the Endeavor.
And the other one was the one for the Idris K kit and the Privateer. They were the only 2 we ever went. I could see a reason to possibly get those because they're more org level or larger group play.
But when you look at the general modules for the ships and you look at the price of the modules, even if the price increases 4 times, like the cash price increases 4 times, or the in-game price increases 4 times, or whatever, it's still cheaper than buying a fighter in general cases, and so easier to earn down to those. So, and I know people disagree with us, and that's okay. That's
everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Right.
So we did
get Luna Maria. I'll say hi to you now.
We got a first-time chatter question, so I'm going to answer this one. So this was from Darth Wookie, who said, "Is it just a size 1, 7?" So he's worded a bit backwards. It's basically, is it just one size 7 turret? And I'm sure we were talking about the Perseus.
Yep.
So I've just come back to this. So actually, it's 2 size 7 turrets. So you can actually see there's one up here on the front, at the top, and then in the shadows down here, you can see a second one on the bottom. And I could see why you would miss that one because you don't see it very often. It's probably, let's be honest, it's not the best placed second turret. It's probably really badly placed. But that said, though, you've got full access to the front. There's nothing that you can't see. And it probably makes it harder to hit because of that. And you also get to defend the back of the ship where the front one can't shoot backwards at all. So in a weird turn of phrase, depending on where you're going, like if you're going to planet, you're probably going to be shooting at more things with the bottom turret than with the top. It really depends where that ship's hanging out,
Yeah, and then given the fact that they're turrets means you can give a full size gun broadside.
Yep, that's true.
So
absolutely.
And we know CIG love their broadsides.
Probably going to be a really common thing people try to pull off, or again, just going straight at the target. That's another one because they can both shoot forward as well. So, yeah, I hope that answers that question for you, Wookie. But yeah, it is one that everyone's kind of looking forward to. I think the other big one is the essentially bespoke ammo for this thing because it's got ballistic ammo and it can change the ammo types. It's essentially almost akin to being able to not have to go all the way home to change a gun. Now, you can't change the guns on this because they're bespoke, but as long as you've got all the different rounds of ammo, you can just customize what ammo you take with you and build your whole ship around that.
So, yeah, and that's going to be a huge thing with the ship. So having the anti, they talked about things like anti-air, the exploding shells, so shotgun shells that explode and take out fighters. They've talked about warfare shells. They've talked about, so all these types of things they've kind of hinted at. They're the types of things we could get.
Yeah.
Do we know what we're getting? No, we just know there's going to be a variety of different types.
Yeah.
So
Lemming was on the same thought path as I was myself. I was thinking about it just as Lemming was talking about. He said, I wouldn't hold my breath for changing ammo types at launch. And that would be my question to you. Do you think that they might make it possible that we can essentially change ammo types or possibly have to load the cargo manually for ammo when this thing drops. It is essentially more than half a year away. Is that a feature that they would see as important? And what do you see that would be required? Because I think you could essentially put it in simple terms. You could have 6 different cargo boxes in the cargo, and you've got to carry that to where it is and drop it off.
Yep. Given that, and you may remember way back in the day where you had to actually put your ammo box onto your ships if they were using ballistic ammo. So I think that the Hornet used to have 2 ammo boxes. You could click two boxes on to give the Gatling guns ammo and other ships like that. I would say the tech's there, and so I could see it being there, but my caveat to that is I can't recall having ammo boxes for my ballistic ammo that I'm able to attach anymore. I haven't seen that for a long time.
I haven't seen them. It's a part of the plan. It's on those design docs we looked at ages ago. But it's how far and how much they've got to get it done for when this thing's ready to go. But like I said, you could cheese it, and they are moving to a more of a stability and kind of quality thing at the moment. You could literally, like, the cheapest version I could think of is in the cargo bay. You have a box for every separate different type of ammo type, but every time you want to change the ammo, you got to run down there, grab it, and bring it back. So that could be enough initially.
Yeah, it could be, but I'm picking up the point that you used to have to attach your ammo box to your gun for the ballistic gun to work, and I haven't seen that for a while. So,
well, yeah, they had a lot of
the indication
ballistic ammo reloads for drones was the thing. I think we haven't heard enough to know if do you need to reload bigger ships from the inside? We haven't had updates on that in a really long time.
Yeah.
But again, being a game, you can kind of gamify it a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes there. But I think that's where it's going to go to. Like, some ships, like smaller fighters, can be reloaded externally by drones. Or you land in a hangar and they're reloaded there. But then bigger ships, you can reload them internally. That just makes a lot of sense to me. And really, at the end of the day, I know we talk about fidelity a lot, right? But does it really affect your game that much, whether it's being loaded internally or externally? It's almost like you press a button and it reloads, or you put the box into the container and it sucks it in. It's not that much more. There's still someone that's got to physically pick it up and move it. It's just, is it a drone that's doing it, or is it a person doing it?
Or is it a person?
Yeah. So there's still the logistics there. It's just not as connected as you would like it to be. It's not like you're putting every single bullet in yourself type of thing.
Yeah, and it's like you're not loading your rifle cartridges.
Yeah.
You're not loading your rifle magazines. You're just swapping the magazines out, and that's what I'd see you'd be doing.
Well, it's even like cargoes itself now. Like, cargo at the moment, it's all done with beams. Like that. We're not picking up. We can pick them up, but eventually, you'll have all these different ways to pick them up, like the trolleys and the drones and all that type of thing. But right now, the minimum of the road is the tractor beams. I don't know. It'll be interesting because the other thing is, I don't think armor's going to be online for this thing when it comes out either. So that's not going to be a thing. So this thing is shielded and armored out the wazoo. So it's just going to be interesting. I know we've gone over this twice, but
look, I would hope that when the Perseus comes, that's when armor first gets implemented, because that's supposed to be from what I gather, the ship that really is the armored tank, bit like the Terrapin. They're the 2 stalwarts to me that are, like, if you're talking armor, they're the 2 ships that have come across as being very heavily armored. So
Limming was just pointing this out,
I think,
but I will point it out again. Last week when we looked at this, you can already see that January, for example, is already a lot bigger than January last year, and February, I would argue, is already equal, and we're only halfway through. So
yeah, I would say February is now equal with February last year. So we're halfway into March.
Yeah, have we recovered from what was the downward slump at CitizenCon? I don't know, because I think we would all argue CitizenCon was a bit of a slump. I don't know, what if you, hindsight's a great, wonderful thing. if you kind of look back at last year, what do you think kind of caused that slump?
You know full well what people say is the cause of that slump. Execute.
What was it?
It was the Galaxy not being a builder ship.
I also think it was probably a little bit to do with the onboarding ships. Like you look back at last year and it wasn't the best lineup. It was all side grady type of thing. There wasn't as lot as new ships as we were used to, and that was, I think that's kind of why they did the talk about the Ban of Merchman the year before, because they were kind of bracing us for like going, this is not going to be the best year for ships, guys. Sorry.
No, well, there were 20 new ships last year. Okay, but most of those were Hornet reworks. You know, I can pull up the sale page and look at the expansion pack for the Invictus. But
I was just going to say, I think it's a sum of its parts. I think it was a few other problems, like the master modes problem. That as you see it go forward now, it could never stay the way it was because, as I said, we're moving from a small into a medium, and that's only going to go into bigger ships as we go. You never would have been able to do those ships. It was a dogfighting game, and we're now moving into like a fleet game. It's a completely different game.
And the setup they've got for master modes is basically like we talked about it when it first came out, and we were looking at the dial, and I said this looks like it's been set up for consoles. But it also was clear that they'd set it up so they could swap out what each command was doing. So when we talked about that, even before Rich talked about it, from memory, as it being set up for the different, mining hardener, engineering hardener. Because we'd heard CIG mention those types of things way back when, and then that seemed to get confirmed by Rich when he was talking about master modes going forward, and it just makes sense. But I know people don't like it.
So White Wolf asks a really important question, and I think he's thinking really well. And I want to throw this back to you, White Wolf. So White Wolf has said, isn't technically the average citizen spending lower than last year though? All right. So taking that as a possible fact, why would the numbers be up then, White Wolf? It's really logically simple. It's more people.
Yeah.
That's it. And when you think of that, it's like, well, that means the game's more successful. That's why the numbers keep going up. It doesn't matter how many people are buying, as long as new people are buying. And one of the things we saw was CIG is really favoring or really trying to push onboarding, what me and all Algared call onboarding content creators. So board gamer, morphologist, space tomato. Out of the Inforunners group, space tomatoes are our onboarder, right? So the people that deal with the new people, right? Because they come in, they bring the fresh people in, and they'll trickle right down through all the other boys, so to speak, and then get to me and Algared, because me and Algared are the veterans that kind of, we're in here for the long haul like the rest of you guys, right? But put your new person hat on, just like you said, they're spending less money, but there are just so many more of them. And I think that would be reflected. I know we can't grab the numbers, but if you go back, and I think the closest thing we would have is if we look at the number of accounts, wouldn't it, Algared? That'd be the.
Yep. Well, that also gives you the average. You can work out the average spent per player as well. It's even from 2014, it used to be the average player was spending about $100.
Now I'm going to sound stupid here. Do you remember where they put it? Because I haven't gone there in a really long time.
Believe it or not, I was actually looking for it. I was trying to remember where the hell did they put it.
It might be under funding. No.
Funding.
No, it's under. Star Citizens. Yeah, 5.5 mil.
Yep.
So that's up quite a bit as well.
And you look at the funding. So, what, 5.5 mil, 700.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Mil.
I'll calculate it for you. Hold on. What do you want me to do? You just want me to times
work out the
divide them.
Amount. Yeah, divide. Divide the total funding by the backers, and that should give us the average amount, or at least the average amount spent per backer.
I know you guys can't see my calculator, but I'm just doing that. All right, divide by 5,539,165.
And yes, Bola 9999. That is the average accounts, and yes, there are multiple people with multiple accounts, but CIG also track.
So that means it's at the average.
Regularly.
the average spend would be 141, almost 142, because it's 0.990.
So, okay, based on that, we are spending about $8 less on average per person than in about 2014.
Well, the other way
used to be about 150.
Well, the other way to look at it too is the recommended retail price video game in the United States is $70. That's twice that.
Yeah.
That's still we spend way too much. As in, we are very generous with our cash.
Yeah, but Bowler makes the point that yes, it is 5.5 million accounts, and all right. Where you're picking up the point that lots of people have multiple accounts, like I've got multiple accounts.
Absolutely,
but
that's how that's how you work out an average spend. That's how it's done.
But the key thing to remember is CryEngine also keep track of the concurrency. How many individual unique players there are playing the game, and those numbers are continually going up.
And I would also argue the duplicate accounts actually bring the money down, because a lot of people are making one count, putting $40 on it, and then never using it again. And that's right. And that's under the average amount. So that's bringing it down, not up. So you think about that in mathematical terms. It's obviously
in mathematical terms, the average backer is probably spending more than that, but based on the number of accounts, the average account spends $150.
I'm getting the fans off your
computer. That hasn't changed.
I'm getting the fans off a computer, Algared, real bad.
Yep,
just letting you know. All right, want to do another question?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just put that number in chat in case people want to see it. But 141.99, and that's in dollars. So
Radium Texas says Super Hornet Mark II is seemingly better in every way. Would you keep a Mark I or upgrade?
We're going to do a review. The long story of it is it's a personal taste problem, right? They've said that you're always going to be able to have the Mark I. If it's $50 cheaper, like in a way, like what you're getting off the Hornet worth $50, and I'd almost argue it's not. You know, like you're still getting a two-person seater craft in the older Hornet. There are other ships that it bypasses that were cheaper. Like the Raelian's still I know it's not out yet, but the Raelian's 220. That's a 4-person ship. Like you're starting to see the Terror. You get an MSR at 260. It's $20 to get to an MSR. You got the Corsair at what's Corsair now? 250. You got the Connie at you see where I'm going with this, right? Yep. Like the territory you're in, you are paying a goddamn premium for a medium fighter. By the way, it's not even a heavy fighter. It's not a Scorpius. It's not a Hurricane. It's a medium, and it even bypasses. I'd have to double check it, but I think it even bypasses the Santoki Eye, which is a medium alien.
To put it into context with the Vanduul, the Glaive actually trumps the Hornet, and so it's in that arms race between the ships. And TKO Pilot, thank you for that $10 super chat. I'm going to disappear for a second.
All right, no problem.
I'll be back. I'll see if I can also kill that sound that is coming through.
Yep, no worries. See you shortly. Oh, it is. It's just a real echoey mic on him. What's the price on that one? Yeah, so 240. 240. Now, I would argue that the mic is he's got me distracted now. The price of that, you got the alien tax. How can you justify a human ship to an alien ship? You know what I mean? So. All right, let's do another question. I can actually probably go to solo here. Hang on. There we go. Afro Snowman says, question, what ship or ships do you think will be the big money earners in 1.0? I understand that this is a pure speculation, but I just want to know your opinion, and does it not need to be fact-driven? We've speculated on two fronts. What makes the most money, and what is the best value for money to buy. And we have come to the conclusion it is the bigger economic-based ships. So think things like the Reclaimer, the Orion, and stuff like that. And the reason for it being is you can struggle with few or next to no crew members and get missions done, but the amount of money that you earn on them is drastically higher than you would earn on a single or lower seater, and then use that money you earn to buy downwards. So you can instead of struggling, you just buy the one. Instead of buying every single size of ship, you just buy the big one and slightly struggle downwards. And as you go down, you can get all of them. It's in any game, starting at the top and going backwards is better than trying to push shit uphill. It's literally that analogy. You're pushing down a hill instead of up a hill. And then as to your question of best money earners, that's also going to be a part of what profession you're into. So are you a combat guy? Then you're probably going to want a combat ship. Are you into science? Then you're probably going to want a science ship. Are you are you so obsessed with mining that you just buy every mining ship anyway? That's entirely up to you. I'd personally try and get a little bit of every gameplay. That's what I've done. So I've just bought multiple of the big ships because, and then I'll just earn down to the smaller ones. The other bonus, obviously, is right now that a lot of people don't talk about is, right now the Prospector is amazing, right? Yeah, but if I have an Orion, I get a Prospector and a Mole as a loner. Best of both worlds. I have what I want right now, but when the Orion drops, I can instantly go up to that. By that time, the Mole and the Prospector will have already been in game for ages, and I can just essentially earn them very, very quickly.
Yeah. That is the...
Yeah. Does that answer
That's the logic of what we say.
Let me know, Aframac, if that answers your question in chat. Just at me in chat so I can see that you read it.
And it's not saying those ships are bad. It's just saying they're just not worth it. And especially when you look at the price to buy them in game versus that. And that's the key difference. We're not talking... It's the same when we say any ship's crap or shit. We're saying the price to buy it in game with cash does not compare with the price to buy it in game based on what we've been told. And it's easier to get a bigger ship and earn down to that small ship in game. But if you want to actually own the ship and have it in your hangar and a perpetual thing that can't be lost, then fine. Then you go for it. But if you're trying to balance your dollars and get the most bang for your buck, then the big ships going down just seems the most logical.
First time chatter on Twitch just says, I really love my Apollo. Yep, I think a lot of people are looking forward to more RSI ships, especially after the Polaris coming out. 64 in YouTube said, hello, Algared. Spoke with you at the Bar Citizen Sydney last week, just before you left for the night. I'm good to see you again. He says 6-4. I think, is 6-4 like a salute? Or am I... I'm a bit lost on that.
6-4 is just his name.
I thought it might be like a radio command. 6-4. Oh, that's 10-4. I'm getting it wrong.
10-4.
Right, yeah. Anyway.
No, I remember talking to you as well. I remember the 6-4 name.
No, so here's Destroy. Destroy is always giving her a great counterpoint. So he's saying, execute, assume everyone values the same thing as you. Telling people to buy the bigger ships and earn other ships in-game faster is literally telling folks to pay to win. I think it's the best way to spend your money. And my argument to that is the one that with the Vulture Algared. It's essentially 2 Vultures is almost as expensive as 1 Reclaimer. And I don't think anyone would argue the 2 Vultures would come anywhere close to gathering half as much salvage as a Reclaimer. Algared, you'd kind of agree with that?
It was about, I think, to fill a Reclaimer was 17 Vultures in terms of cargo space.
Yeah, 16's the number I remember, but
16,
somewhere
17,
there,
but around there, So
looking at the volumes, it just doesn't add up. And again, even if you wanted the Vulture, and you had let's say, for example, you're a fan of the Prospector, and you're a fan of the Vulture, and you're a fan of pick another starter profession ship, right? Instead of getting all 3 of those, you can get one of the big ones of the others and just very quickly earn down to the others. But you can't take a Prospector and very quickly earn a Reclaimer. It just doesn't work.
And my own experience was, doing one of the first Xeno threats. Yeah. So I was doing the lucrative deals on a Xeno threat, and it took me almost a full month to earn a Cutlass with an Aurora. It took me a day, and even less than a day to do it with the Retaliator, and that was just that size of ship difference.
It's like we speculated a lot of this stuff for a really long time, but more and more of it is coming to pass. And like when you are giving people advice, it is really hard to do things that are all encompassing. So when we've done this, we've done little niche things like fix my fleets. We have done generalized advice, and everything in between. If you do not agree with our advice, you buy exactly what you want to buy. But that by the same token, like, so Destroy's saying, don't do that. He doesn't agree with our advice. If you don't agree with our advice, don't you do it either. But people ask us what we think and what that's our advice. We don't just pull it out of our butt. We actually went out and went, this is our plan. This is what we did ourselves. This is what makes the most sense. And guess what? Both me and Algared break the rules.
Yeah. And in fairness, we didn't come up with this.
No, it
was Hayes who came up with it and went, this don't make sense.
Yeah, originally Hayes started it and it made sense, and me and Algared have just built off it and added onto it over time.
And the key reason why we came up with the, the buy big earn down really was we'd have people come in to say, hey, I fix my fleet. I really want
you got one at the bar, citizen. They don't even stay away from you. They were coming up to you asking first.
Yeah,
fix my fleets at the bar, citizen.
Well, initially I think a bit tongue in cheek, because they only had 2 ships and a bike. But then when we started talking, it was well, your bike with LTI is actually what you use to use war bond purchases to get to that ship you really want. Because fix my fleet was people coming and saying, I really want this ship, or basically I really want this. I can't afford to buy it. My ship, my fleet's a mess. How can I get there? And you'd say, well, what are you interested in? And say, oh, mining. And you're looking like, you say, where are your mining ships? Oh, I don't have any. That's why I need your help. Yeah. And then you look and you say, you've got all these fighters. Yeah, but I don't like fighting.
Yeah, it's sometimes really like when you go to the doctor and get a second opinion, like you have all your friends telling you to do this and that and that. Sometimes it helps just to have an outsider do it. We had people coming to us asking us for help, so we were like, well, we're gonna have to do this properly. We're gonna have to form proper opinions, and that's just how we did it. And whether you agree with it or not, that's totally fine. We're never ever gonna hold you to the flame, so to speak. But that's what works for us in our own fleets. It's worked in so many other people's fleets. The only people that we've really ever got kickback on is people with, and I'm not saying to destroy that said this. I'm talking to people that we've talked to. You know what I'm about to talk about, Aaron, is org leaders. A lot of org leaders have a very, I'm going to say, a control freak attitude where they want to have all the big ships. Not all of them. I shouldn't say all org leaders, but a lot of the bad org leaders we've seen, they want to control their entire org. So they want all the big ships and they want their
org to have the little ships.
And that's a terrible idea, because then they're beholden to you. They become like subjects. If you leave, you'll never be able to use the Kraken, But it's your money. You spend it the way you want to spend it. We're just trying to give you a bit of advice on how it could go. Instead of $10 going this far, can the $10 go twice as far?
Yep. And that is really all we're trying to do. Just
make your money go further.
And we've always said that. Getting the best value for your dollar is.
So it's the dollar thing, getting the prices of the ships down, but it's also better ships that kind of go further. And that's what I mean. Like you look at the Vulture versus the Reclaimer, you cannot make that argument that the Reclaimer's not better value. It just does not add up. Now, I know you can turn around and say, but that ship's too big for me. This could be technically true, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Are you going to make more friends, etc.? Are you going to join an org? You don't know that. And the other thing is, as I said, you can technically struggle solo with these things and earn enough money that you could buy the ship under it or the ship below that.
Yeah. And I take the view that you take the biggest ship that you feel comfortable with and earn down to the other ships.
Absolutely.
You don't have to get the biggest ship in game.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
you're never going to use that or be with that size group. Don't get it. That's insane. But
anyway. but again, you don't also have to go from, like, if you get the biggest mining ship, you can go sideways completely into science or whatever you want. You don't.
Yep.
You only need one, right? The biggest ship you have and can possibly afford, right? essentially gives you all the ships below it far cheaper because you are just earning money at a much greater rate. That's essentially the whole math on it. And you can take that through every MMO that has ever existed. And the simplest one that I always give is, if you're a level 60 character in World of Warcraft and you walk into a starting area or a level 10 area, you are just killing all the little things like they don't even exist. It's the same analogy.
Look, I think at the end of the day, people either agree with the wearing down economy or not. But what I do know is at CitizenCon, I was approached by at least 20 people, at least. And that's, you know, even CIG devs saying, you guys
saved us a ridiculous amount of money.
Me so much money.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that just looking at the price of ships and looking at the value of the ships and looking at how they work and even showing how to stretch that dollar further using war bonds.
Yeah. Thanks for the $2 all at on the super chat. Oh, he's almost there almost every damn stream.
Yep.
The last go ahead.
But that you know, that fact of using war bond upgrades to help you upgrade a ship instead of just going from the base ship straight up to where you want to go. We're looking at the earn down economy, looking at the value of the ships in game, all of that, it helps people save money. And the ships aren't cheap.
I think you would agree with me on this statement, Algared, whether we had to keep teaching people like this or if we could just flip it over to a much simpler, streamlined system. You would agree with me that would be where you and I would want to take it.
I'd love a more streamlined system.
It's very confusing, and it's got multiple moving parts to it as well now.
I just remember Ben.
Yeah, well, if the guy that builds the ship's having trouble trying to take it all in, you know where we're at.
That's with the war bombs, you know. He just, it just blows his mind.
He said he watched 2 or 3 videos and still couldn't understand it. So, all right, Afro Snow, we did that one, didn't we? Well, that was a very long response to that one, but right. Citizen Ninja. So Perseus at ILW and Ironclad at IAE. I would say the Perseus, is probably safest as Invictus launch week. But I think we'd agree with this. We're probably going to hear about when it's coming, much like how we heard where the Polaris is coming. Would you agree with that? I think we will hear.
We'll get more drops as to where it's coming, but based on where it sits, based on they seem to have been working on the Perseus and the Polaris at the same time, and they prioritize the Polaris just because eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember the conversation with
about what specifically?
Yeah, about those ships. But I think
you mean like how they picked them?
Yeah.
They basically we said, why did you do the Polaris first? And they just said we had to pick one.
Yep. And it was just we picked one. But my understanding was they were kind of working on them in tandem and they just prioritized the one over the other. That tends to me to say the Perseus will come sooner.
I think the kind of inkling I got, like, it wasn't ever said, but it was kind of heavily implied when we talked about the Galaxy and the build, that the Galaxy was just too big to go. They needed it done sooner, and that's why they did the build, because they could get, like, they had 4 people free, but they didn't have 8 to do the Galaxy, so they just went, okay, we'll put 4 on a smaller one and build that. So yeah, and they.
And that seemed to make sense. And, you know, I got the impression that they weren't thinking the Galaxy was actually a build ship. Yeah. Like, that was also the impression I got. Yeah. But
it was a genuine thing that had kind of fallen through the cracks. Yeah. That's going to happen at any big company.
Yeah. When you think you've got 1,000 people working in the company, you'll have things slip through the cracks. So,
actually, that's not a bad. So, who said that in chat? Recap just said, so Perseus is a Paladin XL. I actually thought myself that a while back. Let's just let's do the comparison. Hang on, I've got to move these over. I've got to switch this over. And I'm going to bring the Paladin back in. But good for a good size comparison. Yeah. Well, again, we did talk about the Reclaimer being not the Reclaimer, I'm going to butcher it, the Redeemer being the smaller Perseus back in the day. So yeah, I could see that again here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Half the size almost. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah.
And when it's very similar crew count.
Yeah, like 4 to 6.
And you can already see what it's going to be. Maneuverability. Even though this is meant to fly like the old Redeemer, it's still going to fly better than that thing.
Yeah, because it's a smaller ship.
Yeah.
And it'll have a smaller silhouette. So, you know.
Smaller guns.
Smaller guns, smaller silhouette. Therefore, less of a signature.
Well, ironically, from the height perspective, it's almost the same. If you fly from the front, like it's like the what's that? The Retaliator versus Saber thing. From the front, they're almost the same size. Not exactly, but they are damn close. Considering how big the Retaliator is. And that was, remember that photo they had from back in the day? I've looked for it, but I may not find it. So.
No, I remember making that argument about Retaliator a lot. The front profile of it is so small. It's long and narrow. So get it side on, it glows like a Christmas tree, but front on, it's a dot. So, yeah.
All right. Next question, if you've got one there.
So Citizen Ninja has a second question. Will the Apollo release this year without its drone gameplay, since its med beds will still be useful? My gut feeling with the Apollo is it'll come at the same time as the build. And it'll use automated drones, just like the build.
I think if it doesn't come with it, it could even come before or after. I agree with Algared 100%. Your first set of drones could literally just be A to B things, just like the build's going to use. Because realistically, all it's got to do is fly to where the person is, even if it's in a stupid straight line, and essentially go pick up. They could just be literally swallowed by it. You don't even have to see it. And then, boom, they appear in bed when you get back. That's it. So you just go bang, bang, and you're done. And
at the moment, from memory, there is no drone control station on the Apollo.
Yeah, which makes it automated as hell. Absolutely good point.
Automated, and the Shepherd drones seem to imply that they were automated. You know, the bed's there, you click it, and
Psycho762 says, been out of the game for a bit and come back to see what they did to the Corsair and Redeemer. I know adjustments are made, but these feel over the top. But anyway, thanks for the content. And that was a $10 super chat. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for that super chat.
As in response to your question, I did address this when they did it to the Corsair, and I think it's really important to alliterate. They changed how the turrets and the loadouts were all not on the pilot, but literally when they looked at the stats at CitizenCon, what was it? 92% of all kills were the Corsair. There are almost 200 ships in the game, and there were 90 of them, 90%.
Yeah.
Were the Corsair. So all they've done is move them off being on the same gun. It's a 4-person ship, but when the MFD system comes back in, you'll be able to do whatever you want. So you will be able to have all of them back on the same gun. But guess what? It won't just be on the Corsair. It'll be on all the others as well.
Yeah. And from memory, on that infographic where the Corsair had all those kills, the second ship with the most kills was the Andromeda, but that was a ship that had been in for a significantly longer time, and so in the history of the game, it was So
I think the other one, the Redeemer, we did talk about this a bit as well. When it comes to the Redeemer, it's literally just they took it back to what it originally was concepted as, and then when they did that, they kind of went, oh, there's now this gap where the Redeemer is, so they made the Paladin. So if you're not a fan of the Redeemer anymore, go get a Paladin. I think that's the only thing I can kind of... Would you add to that, Algared, or...?
No, I think that's right. The only thing I'd probably say is I still don't think the Redeemer is as the original concept design or brief, but it's closer to the original.
The brief, I think how the Four Horsemen intended it is, but I think they made it a bit of an everything ship because they...
back in the day.
It was a competition, so they're trying to make the ship seem as awesome as possible not to the designers who had to pick the final decision, but to the community, because the community was voting for it. It's like, well, and back then everyone wanted everything ships that just did everything. And well, look at the Carrack now. everyone still looks at that ship because it looks like it does so much, but they haven't seen the weaknesses a lot. And I know the people here know what I'm talking about. Like, it just doesn't have the guns. It's clearly designed to be out and about, further away from everything. But that makes it really good at what it does. And I think a lot of ships are going to be really good at what they do. But then when you add combat on top of it, they drop a bit. And I think that's because combat ships they're the combat ships. That's just the ironic balance of it all. So we'll have to wait and see how more of that shakes out. But I really liked how the Paladin landed, and I also liked the Redeemer. I think they're in different spots, and they are clearly designed for different roles. When I went it through with SA and Drazen, military insertion ship on the Redeemer, it's kind of more shield based. It's got more speed. It's essentially go in and come out. The Paladin's more like a flying tank. It's going to stay in the fight and actually fight you. It's heavily armored. It's got shields. It's got, like, it's meant to stay there, but it's going to fly like the old Redeemer and be fat and sluggish, So I think that's two sides of a different coin,
I know when they first did the change to the Redeemer, your initial response was they've killed my Redeemer.
Yeah, I'm so pissed. But
he was really, really annoyed.
And then as I started to read through and look at it and analyze it and talk to other people about it, I totally changed. And I was like, right, it's just two different ships. And I'm actually kind of happier because that's what I paid for. And I preferred what I paid for than what it became. But I also like what it became. But I think what it's going to become, I think the Paladin will be better than where the Redeemer was. The armor, stuff like that.
I think because they then split the ships into two avenues, you can now focus them and make them become more tailored to that role rather than trying to do two things. And that's the advantage of having specialist ships rather than having ships that are jack of all trades. And the jack of all trades ships are great, but they're never as good as those.
I just realized something.
Targeted at a task.
The Paladin was in with those group of ships destined to come out.
And
you see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
When are they coming out? Because we probably should go back and look at. Do you remember what monthly report it was? I think, was it last month or the month before? Because that would I think it was last month. Just like, I'm going to do it live, guys. So I know this will take a little while, but maybe you could ask another question real quick while I look for it.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
It was the November-December one.
November-December, so the very first one of the year? Is that the one? That was the first one this year, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you want to read the question, please?
Yep. So socially confused has a question for us. Does the Perseus have a med bed? I do believe no.
Perseus.
I believe that was one of the things.
No, Perseus doesn't have a med bed.
Yep. It had limited crew things. And that's one of the reasons I always assumed or took the view that it was a more system defense or planet defense rather than a fly around with fleet and type ship. But that's just me.
All right, I found it, I think. It's just loading.
Yep.
I don't remember exactly where it was, though. So it was under ships, I believe. Right one, AI ships. So here you go. Alongside the unannounced vehicles, several upcoming vehicles progress through the white box. You're going to remember this is from November, December. So we are looking back at, 4 months ago. Grey box stages include the Consolidate Outline Pioneer. Now, we know that started a week after CitizenCon. It takes 18 months. That's Invictus next year at the earliest. Drake Ironclad. Now, we know that they went in development before CitizenCon previously, so that makes Invictus coming up a potential. Anvil Paladin, they essentially entered grey white box. So if that went into grey white box, end of the year at best, I think would be a best hope analysis for that one. Miss Starlight's Attack, I think that's Invictus. I think that's clearly Invictus. I don't think you would argue with me on that one at all, Argo CSVM, base building, so basically in line with when they dropped the build.
Yep.
RSI Polo, again, I think that is a contender for Invictus and after. And then the Perseus, I think.
Yep.
The Expo. Is any of those that you would disagree with, or think that they could be somewhere else?
Well, as I said, I think I could see the Apollo coming in Invictus because it's military, but I tend to think it'll come with the build just because of the drones.
See,
that's the only thing that
you'd almost wish the Paladin was at Invictus too, just for that reason.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you go back to the Paladin, there was no like all they had was the hologram art, which means they were essentially in the concept stage. There was no when you looked at the Ironclad and it had like you could tell that it was in 3D and they'd been working on it. So it was much further along in the planning stages.
And that fits with what John told us in terms of when people asked, are we getting a Drake Corvette, he smiled because at that point the Ironclad was already being worked on. Yeah,
it'd been in for a couple of weeks. I do want to point out, after this stream ends, I will be going on Starjump stream. He invited me on this week, so essentially we finish about 11 our time, and then at 1 their time. I believe I'm going to butcher this. I think it's like 9 p.m. in the up over. I don't know which east or west coast. Grim, if you're still in chat, what's the time UTC that thing is on? If he's in chat, he is in chat. Let people know when the stream's going to be, Grim, in chat, so people know. And if I see it, I'll repeat it for Twitch.
Okay, so Ivy has a question. It says, why do you think they only started with the Perseus after the Polaris was fully done and released? The grey box is done by different designers, and the final brochure of...
Yeah, I think the other thing that was really clear to us was variety is the spice of life. That came out really clearly. Like if you think about it this way, if you're a creative type style person and you are working on the same thing for 12 plus months, wouldn't a change be as good as a holiday? So if you could literally go from an RSI ship working on a MISS ship, right? Just to spice, and not only that, going from a really large capital to possibly working on a ship on your own. That would be refreshing too. You'd have a little bit more freedom, you just change, a bit more responsibility, and then it's like, oh, I'm getting a bit bored working on my own. All right, now we're going to be on a medium ship, and it's me and Fred working together, and now we're working on a Crusader ship. Or you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yep.
And I think you would agree on that. It spices things up, and I know you work in education, and keeping kids' minds fresh and all that. It's no different for adults, especially when you're in
every 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They actually say people have an attention span equivalent to 1 year of their life, up to 15. So, and if you watch in a hall, in a concert or an auditorium where there's speeches, about every 15 minutes you'll see what's called a gross postural shift go through the whole audience. It'll be a yawn, it'll be a stretch, it'll be the big move in the chair type thing. But you'll see that, and it'll just ripple through the whole hall about every 15 minutes, and that's people just resetting.
It's the same thing when they make a movie, why they try different angles and scenes and stuff, because quite honestly, you and I do this poorly. Having a fixed camera like this is boring as shit, but that's why I try to do things like this and change the camera and blah, 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 and go places, because it does spice it up a bit. But we don't do high production values. It's all about the information and data. So, yeah. All right.
So the other thing with that is they indicated they were working at the same time.
Yep.
But one gets a priority. Now, that doesn't mean, and I can see that in terms of, they're both Dorito ships, they're both RSI, there's going to be a lot of shared assets. And so you can see them kind of.
Well, we even saw it last year where they worked on the Polaris and the Zeus, right? I think we're seeing it again this year. We are seeing the Pioneer and the ship that I've codenamed the Trailblazer, which is the one from the thing. I think that is so evidently a Crusader, a Consolid Outland ship.
It makes sense.
And we've seen it before. We now have this established pattern of different ships starting to land at the same time every year that you can, like, I can't say it's going to be this manufacturer or it's going to do this role, but I can pretty much with confidence tell you at CitizenCon this year, there is a massive chance that we're getting a medium ship at CitizenCon, because it's happened multiple years now.
Yeah.
And it's I would bet money that we are getting Intrepid variants at the end of the year, and I think you would agree with me on that. Yeah, if we had to make
based on what we've seen in the past, yeah. And it's not, you know, could we be wrong? Yeah, absolutely. But we're just basing what we're saying on what we've seen in previous years. But yeah. Anyway, next question.
Please.
Lazarus, what do you want the next carrier ship, and who do you want to make it?
Didn't we have this last week? I swear we had this last week, and we kind of went through this a bit.
Well, I personally want to see, I would love to see the Crusader Jupiter.
I think they said, though, and I'm going back to a show that I wasn't even on, but was it you and Dave Haddock and Paul?
Probably was.
And Dave Haddock, and Dave Haddock just said the Jupiter's way too big.
Yep, I think so.
So I'm using your own shit against you.
Yeah, look, I'm saying what I'd like, but based on what they originally wanted for the Jupiter.
But would you be happy with a smaller substitute made by Crusader? So like a mini Jupiter. That's why I said. Yeah. Remember, I remember it now. Last week I went to a planet.
Yep.
And I went to I went to a moon of Jupiter, and I said, let's call it that.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember now.
But the idea, the Crusaders Jupiter was built to take their shuttles to market because that was where they had a block in the chain.
Yeah.
And they figured we can make more money if we actually have our own, and so they did that. So I'd have liked to have seen a Jupiter made. The other carrier we do know is the escort carrier from RSI, which is the Pegasus. Both of those, I like RSI, so that's probably my favorite ship build, but
Pegasus falls under like battle cruiser though, so you'll probably see that in episode 1 or episode 2.
Yeah, it's probably the same hull as the battle cruiser.
Yeah, real quick from what I remember of last week, I basically want a carrier that's 2 medium-sized pads. So you could essentially have like a Zeus and a Spirit land somewhere halfway between, kind of like a bridge in the middle of a system where they can land and refuel, or possibly transfer the cargo and then fly back to where they came from. I think that would be really valuable. And yes, it does steal a little bit from the Kraken, but the Kraken does a lot already. And sharing that's not essentially going to hurt it, and it would give you something a little bit around the same size as a Liberator, but a bit more ship focused.
If you think about the Kraken, it does do a lot already. It's got the snub shuttle bay, or the snub bay. It's got the internal hangar for 2 small ships or 1 medium ship. It's got the small fighter pads on the top. It's got 2 medium ship pads on the top. That's a lot that it's got in it. And then it's probably also got the ability, because it can land, because we've seen images of it on the planet, and it's probably got the ramps, which means you can put vehicles on it. So
it's essentially giving you something somewhere between the Liberator and the Kraken, like somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
I vaguely recall hearing at one point basically that Drake basically used a modified or used the specs of an Idris as the base hull for it, or that's what CIG used to actually build it, was basically an Idris type hull, and then padded out and changed and modified.
So Starjump streams on at 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know when that is UTC. I did it for UTC, but you guys can backtrack it from there. We do have a first-time chatter over there too. On Twitch, Brohawk _T says, question: speaking of size 7s, is it a bug for the Ares ion projectile to have a ballistic drop, or as it does in the PTU at the moment? I would say that sounds like a bug to me. In space, it should just shoot directly forward. But yeah, that does sound like a bug. Again, I don't have an ion, so I can't really actually 100% confirm that. Have you found any issues on the issue councils from other ion owners? And if there's anyone in chat that's got an ion and that also has PTU access, maybe jump in and help bro out and see if get it to repeat.
I own one, but I never fly it because I really hate the idea of a Crusader gunship.
I think both those ships, you would agree with me, are not where they need to be in the final game. The areas where the armor is clearly meant to go up and shoot ballistic ammo and crack the armor of a capital ship. The ion is meant to sit way back at the back line and be the sniper. And it can't. Neither of them can do that role right now because they don't have all the facility, the features
and
in
they
the
just
game.
become sitting ducks for small fighters. So, but yeah, I would have loved to. I would have preferred to have seen those ships as Kruger, just because they seem to fit more with what Kruger does. But CIG went down the Crusader line to.
Hey, John Crew owned it. John Crew, it was all John Crew's fault.
He did.
He said that.
He did. John, even before we talked to him, he'd owned it. But yeah, he wanted a pew pew ship. He wanted a ship that go brrr. Yeah. So that was his take on a Warthog, I suppose. Anyway,
that's an insult. Says Raelian for Alien Week or just copium. Look, again, when we say these things, these are based on that most ships, when they go into a pipeline, it takes 18 months to go through the pipeline. And if it's a bigger ship, they essentially assign more people, right? That's just what we were told by Ben and John, and so we're going by that. So knowing that the Raelian and the Polo both appeared at the end of that year, in grey box, white box phases at in ISCs and stuff like that, you fast forward 18 months, that'll be this Invictus. So
the earliest you'll see them is Invictus.
Yep. So we're just putting the potential out there, and it's the same thing with the Ironclad. The Ironclad went in, and all three of those ships, their time would end around that Invictus, right? So not saying they're coming, and obviously they're not just going to go, here, have 3 ships. They're going to spread them out a bit. You know, you might get 2 of them, maybe.
Yep.
I don't know, right? But again, if you think about how you got to sell them and how you got to feed us content, they're gonna portion it out, ration even. So yeah.
Yep.
All right.
The next question from Datsun Insult says, how well did the Heartseeker kit sell? Don't know. Haven't really looked, have we?
We're going to talk about that. People always want to know the stuff we're going to do in the review. No, but we will talk about that.
Because they just know us too well.
Yeah. And you're going to lick like a sieve. That's how they know.
The next question from Datsun Insult was, what do we know? What we don't know is a PDC set up on the Perseus. Do you think the size 3 Gatlings will fill that role?
That's a really damn good question. I think that'll be something they test. And I think it's why it's not on a lot of the stats of a lot of the ships. Like, for example, they haven't gone back retroactively and added into the Hammerhead. And technically, it's not a capital. Yep. So technically, it could have none.
I don't think a PDC on using ballistics makes any sense at all.
No, because it runs out of ammo.
Well, again, you got a slow fire rate, though, on that thing, too, so they may add it. Like, we have a PDC on the Phoenix. So,
yes, but it was always supposed to have a PDC.
Yeah, but my point being is we have a precedence of it being on a very small ship or a large ship, right? And that is the smallest ship, I think we can argue. There's only the one that's there. So I think you could say there'd be an argument that if it is needed, they would add it to the Perseus. How many they add? That's what all I'm saying.
I did get the impression when I first looked at the Perseus that the PDC setup was the bat turret at the top. Now, does that mean I'm right, or that they've changed it? It's in development, so they'll make the changes they need. But
I think you can make the argument both ways. But I personally, when I see those turrets, I thought they were anti-fighter turrets. Yeah.
Well, the fact that they're size 3s tells you they're anti-fighter turrets.
Yeah, and I think if they had PDCs, they would be more tailored at torpedoes. But there's so many questions that come in there. Do they actually want? Because we know that this thing's gonna be able to change its ammo and drop like essentially like smoke clouds and stuff like that, and EMPs and stuff. Like, do they expect you to switch your ammo to shoot them down? Do they want? It's what the game players required. So it really comes down to how they would test all that stuff. But they might go, right, this thing just needs 1 PDS. It might need 10. We don't know. right? And I think one of the things is they didn't talk about it. So obviously they're just like, we'll do it when we make it. But I wouldn't rule it out either way, is what I'm trying to say.
One of the things I did find with the Polaris with its PDCs is that it would target torpedoes and fighters.
We flew into when we were in doing the save pyro thing recently, we would fly into some of the areas and the little ships would just explode from the PDCs.
Yeah.
So like a Pisces or an M50 would just they'll just take them out. So
and
those guns
I tend to think the PDCs are set with a priority, and I think down the track you'd be able to set the priority for your point defense turrets.
Do you have to reload them? Can you put lasers on them instead? There's a whole bunch of questions. Yeah,
and that's why Lemming says I don't think ballistics make sense on a PDC, and I agree. I always liked the PDCs that were originally on the 890 because they were lasers, which meant less worry.
Lemming. Sorry, you finished? Or you?
No, yeah.
I was going to say, Lemming, would you like to elaborate on why you think a PDC would be better with a laser instead of a ballistic, in your own words?
Yes. So the selling point to ballistics is that they bypass shields. So unless they start coming up with shielded missiles, which I wouldn't put it past them, but we don't have any proof of that right now. Ballistics really lose their advantage. And then there's just being able to last longer. That ballistics just won't have. You can only carry so many bullets on a ship.
Yep, I agree with that. But now you've given the idea to CIG. Everyone send your hate mail to Lemming at 55 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Well, when I'll also add that if they're looking at, and I've got to assume that given that so many of CIG people are gamers, that they have seen the old board game, Starfleet Battles.
Yeah.
And Starfleet Battles, the Kazinti, who were missile armed, they had missiles with shields, they had missiles with double armor, they had missiles with drone, that were wild weasels.
There's no reason you can't make an alien tech. Like you're essentially. Imagine if the Tavaran had shielded torpedoes or missiles.
Yeah, I could believe it.
And again, they had directional shields, so that on a torpedo makes a lot of sense. So you have to attack their torpedo from. The gameplay is making itself. Like you can see what I'm trying to say. So you've got to send out a ship to go around to the side, or the capital ship's going to get. Yeah. But in return, their torpedoes go slower than most torpedoes, or something like that.
I'll also point out that CIG or Chris Roberts' previous game had skipper drones or skipper missiles, which were basically went invisible, and then whenever they changed their location is when they came visible, and that was the only time you could target.
When they turned, they turned.
Every time they changed their nagation, they'd pop up into view for a while. So.
And they were a pain in the ass.
They were a pain in the butt.
You had to keep moving all the time. It's like, there it is. And you're too slow. Yeah.
Yep. Damn, missed it.
Yeah.
Yep. And they packed a punch. So, we may not get shielded drones, but I wouldn't be surprised to see those skipper drones again, or those skipper missiles. And they were an absolute maggot.
That might be an advantage of larger drones. They can carry components on board, and so they can have a shield. Where a smaller one, they just have to make compromises. We still don't quite like. I've got to imagine there's a little bit more to it than just the size of it means bigger drone does more, as in more. I can carry more building materials. I can build a physically larger building. I can protect myself a bit more. I might have a bit more function, a bit more computer power, just like a bigger ship does more. It's the same type of analogy.
Yep. Hang on.
All right. I'll go on to the next question. Socially Confused says, what did he say? He said, does bespoke ammo count as content or feature? Ooh. I would say that's a feature because the bespoke ammo will work on other ships, and they also implied it would work on other guns. For example, one of the things Piss Poor Pete was looking at on his stream that I was on during the week was the bolt guns should be in game by the end of the year, and they are lightning arc-based weapons. So you can shoot one guy and it'll arc through other people. So when we get the other ammo types, it should also trickle down to guns, not just ship guns and vehicles and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a feature because, again, one of the things we know about their systems is they like to try to reuse systems in other places. Anything you want to add to that one, Lemming? Why the old man's away? Nope, he's not there. Right. Glass Sword says, do you think the Perseus will increase in size and potentially get an upgun of its weapon like the Polaris? That's a real tough one, but I'm inclined to say no, and I can kind of say that based on what we were looking at earlier, and that's this. Because the Perseus has the size 7s, the Paladin has the size 5s, like it's almost like a natural scale thing. I think when you're getting into size 8s, 9s, and 10s, you are literally getting into javelins, Idrises and stuff like that. And so the size of the guns tend to scale a lot more with its sizing. And you got to remember, this is the Perseus is a Starfarer size ship. So it's still in the large category. Size 7s are no joke. They will still kill capital ships. Yeah, Algared, do you want to add to that if you're back?
Yeah, I am back. So in terms of ship gun sizes and torpedo sizes, size 1 to 4 missiles are missiles. Size 5 up are considered torpedoes.
Yep.
In weapons, size 1 to 4 anti-fighter, size 5 up anti-ship. And so the bigger the gun, the more damage it's doing to the bigger ship. But also, I think you find the slower they fire. So,
and if you bring it back to the Perseus and you look at the lore and how they talked about this thing can out ships much bigger than it, you can see where they're going with this ship, that they want.
And you know, the armor on this ship, the Perseus relied on its armor originally to keep it safe.
Yeah.
And its guns basically did the damage to the bigger ships. The re-envisaged Perseus comes with its PDCs, it comes with its shields as well as its armor. So your guess is as good as ours as to how good it will be compared to the old ones.
Would you be surprised in any way, shape, or form, knowing the nature of how these ships are made, if the gun went up or down in size? I would not be surprised, but I don't think it would drastically go to the biggest ship in the biggest gun in the game, right?
If they need it to go up to a size 8 gun turrets, they'll make it size 8 guns. They may change it to a single instead of a dual 7. That might be a single 8.
And same thing with those little remote turrets too. They may be upgunned and also count as PDCs, or like you were saying, or they may be separate PDCs. They will test all that and find out what is needed.
Yeah.
They are very thorough.
The large, if it's a PDC turret, the largest size I would expect to see on any PDC turret is a size 4, because size 4 is size 1 to 4 are those anti-fighter turrets.
Lemming, are you still there?
He is, but he's muted. But
okay. Lemming, if you can hear me, can you reply, please? All right, I'll see. Let me get back to me if you hear me. He's probably listening to the show. So.
If one of those PDCs is geared more for torpedoes and missiles, then because they're usually faster than a ship, then I'm going to assume that you'd want a smaller turret to more rapid fire or that type of stuff. So, but I'm guessing. I can only go on what they've said in the past about gun sizes being for different class of ship.
All right, so someone asked this in chat, and they said, I don't know who it was. I've now lost them. When I read it, I went, you just want me to go look this up? Like, you're being a monkey. I can't remember who it was. And I won't throw you under the bus, but I just can't remember who it was, right? Because I normally credit where credit due type of thing, right? But they basically asked, they said, I don't remember the Perseus having bespoke size 7 guns at concept. This is the Q&A from the Perseus. The very first question, the answer is, the main turret weapon of the Perseuses are currently planned to be bespoke 7-size ballistics with customizable ammo type. So that's that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think you would agree, Algared. That is one of the exciting things of this ship. Yep. To put it in a visual way, it's like being able to change your weapons on the fly. But what you get in return is you get a slower fire rate because you've got to manually reload. Yep. But that's still really insane flexibility.
Yep. And you can see even from just picks up the point you were making before about going up a size or down a size as needed. You can see from the answer that they've left it open to themselves. The main turret weapons on the Perseus are currently planned to be bespoke size 7 ballistics. And they could change that. Yeah. They could say, it's just straight size 7s, no regular ammo. They could say it's now size 8, now size 6.
I think if you're adult enough, you could step back and go, no matter how much you paid for a ship, no matter how much you loved a ship, we all want a balanced and fun game. So whatever changes are required, they will make those changes. And I think we will all agree with we want a balanced game, right? You might go, oh, you've nerfed my ship, you bastards. I'm going to blah, 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 whatever. But at the end of the day, it's for the betterment of the game.
Like every MMO, with every character class, when the character classes go for a revision, everyone claims their class has been either nerfed or buffed, or muffed, or nuffed, or whatever you want to do.
You've got something on your mind, sir. Would you like to share with the class notes?
But that change of ships.
Like what's he talking about?
Well, the merging. Yeah, the merging of Nerf and
the merging of what, Algared? The merging of what? Yeah, anyway.
The merging of...
someone's got something on his mind. Anyway.
No, someone is trying to combine Nerf and buff.
Sure he is. All right, anyway.
I'll just say you're a bastard and leave it at that.
You're welcome. The glass sword. Do you think the Perseus will increase in size and potentially get an upgrade? Oh, he said, I forgot about the size. I think they plan these things a lot better than they used to in the old days. I think they're pretty much set on their size. From a legality point of view, it's hard to move things because they're always worried about being sued or whatever. This ship was sold a particular way. And I'll even use the Redeemer and the Paladin as a really good example. They went back to what it was originally sold as, because that's given people what they paid for. So it might grow a little bit, it might shrink a little bit, but I don't think it'll be anything really drastic, like the Perseus becomes the Polaris sized or something like that. I think you'll find that it'll be within 5 to 10 meters at most. 10 meters would be pretty big for a ship that was 120 meters something, wasn't it? I'll have to go.
Yeah.
What is it here? We turn the ship labels back on. Show ship labels? No, you won't show me ship labels. Okay, fine. Don't. I'll just add another one then. Perseus. Perseus is 100 meters exactly. So by going 10 meters is literally 10%. So that's crazy. I just don't. It might get a little fatter. We've seen that on our older ships, though, didn't we? Like the Redeemer got fatter. The Carrot got fatter. But I think you would agree with me, in more recent years, Algared, they're a lot better planned these days.
They tend not to need to make them as big as they used to. Like back in the day, the old ships needed to go fatter and bigger just for the components or just because the metrics were out. Yeah. So, at one time they were using metrics where the doors were too small for people. Yeah. They had to change it.
Perry Varelli, if you're talking about the Perseus, yes, the Perseus was sold in 2020. This ship here, the Paladin, was sold at the end of last year. Essentially, they're both potentially on the board for this year coming out.
And in terms of whether they're old ships, in terms of the way we talk, they're both modern ships. They're both new ships. They're both in where the ship pipeline was pretty well developed, and so I don't expect to see the Perseus grow too much.
Yeah. Brock Record, I'm going to chuck your question back at you and say your answer would most likely depend on where in the verse you are fighting. So give me your answer just at Inforunners when you reply, so it comes up in orange and I can see it. But yeah, Brock, I think you would, if you think about that. Sorry, for the rest of the class. A1 versus Paladin, who wins? And then he goes, it's the A1, and I don't agree with that. Because if you're in atmosphere, you'd only have to fly above the Paladin and all of its guns. You'd only have to fly above the A1 and all the guns on the A1 face downwards. Once the proper gravity type, what do you call it, in atmosphere system comes in,
inertia,
you're going to need all those VTOLs to keep that thing flying. It's like a pyramid. And the Paladin, if it can just get up above it, it can just rain fire on top of it. It literally has a gun that tucks underneath it so it can shoot down. So it's time and place. If they were in space, yeah, the A1 could literally just point all its downwards facing guns in the direction, and the Paladin would have a hell of a time. But we also don't quite know the maneuverability of both of those. So if the Paladin can outmaneuver the A1 still may lose. That's a really tough call to make. But I think in atmosphere, you would agree the Paladin would probably beat the A1 if it can get up above it.
So far, yeah. If it can get above it, because that was one of the criticisms we made of the A1. It was back in the day.
Yeah,
how people killed it.
Yeah. There's no perfect ship. We've almost every time you think a ship is completely outweighed by another ship, you can almost think of a scenario where it flips it. And that's going to be a really great thing about this game. It's like, why, like even Algared can use our own words against us, how we say vehicles are really shit. You would agree with me. There are going to be so many times where these will be shit and the vehicles will be amazing.
Yeah.
What was the...
If you got a planet that you cannot land on or fly in because of the... Well, they even talked about some planets having, toxic with melter ships.
I was going to say, you remember the Connie one with the Ursa that year for the...
Yep.
They had an electronic air interference. You couldn't go there with a Connie. You had to land and drive in with the Ursa. That's a simple example.
Yeah, and that was a classic example where in that situation, the Ursa was much better than a Connie in that situation.
Oh, shit. A1 is medium. Wait, people are saying they lost sound? I can hear Algared. I can see the sounds all moving. I don't think we lost sound, dude. I think it was you. People have got to be really careful when they say lost sound. It makes me panic like crazy, especially if you're Peaceful Pete. Man, he got so excited about there being bad sound in that video the other week because I premiered it and I was stressing like crazy because I was like, I haven't had bad sound this bad in ages. And it's one of our biggest videos of the year, those tier list videos. So I was stressing. Not lost any sound. Yeah, so it's all you, dude. I'm getting most people saying sounds good, so it's on your end, bro.
Yeah.
Always check your own sound before you just claim that it's us, because it freaks me. Good way to freak me out, though. If you wanna freak me out.
It makes me start looking as well, because 9 times out of 10 it's probably my end.
So yeah, it's hard enough to do one person sounds, but two really take it to a different level. All right. Yeah. I just realized he said A1, not A2. Yeah, I actually think the Paladin would win. You've got a bomber. You've got 2 people. You do have more maneuverability in the A1, but you've got armors and shield to deal with, but the turrets can rotate. And they're size 5. They're no slouch.
No.
And that doesn't even bring atmospherics into it, because you go into atmospherics and then you go into VTOL mode. It don't change that much because that turret's pretty damn flexible. And you got the 2 side turret guns. Like it. Yeah, I just don't think the A1. All right, Brock's replied. Lever said you can aerial bomb ships such as the Paladin. I've been practicing for 3. Yeah, I bet you can.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. If you take person A and person B and they are the same skill level,
I would still say that,
I reckon you could take the best pilot, A1 pilot in the game, and they would beat your average Paladin pilot. Yeah, I'll give you that. But if we're talking same skill, no way.
And if you're talking air bombing from, bombing ships from here, the number of occurrences in war that happen are minuscule.
Yeah.
And the most common examples were when they were doing the mass bombings in their bomber fleets, and it was friendly fire where a ship had drifted into a plane had drifted into the fall pattern. So
exception not the rule, you would say, though. Yeah. So Brooke, if you're pulling that off, man, awesome, because that shit is hard. So good on you, man. You keep that up.
And I would say, you're probably bombing people who are hovering, which is great. But I'd be taking up a ship that's made to kill.
So now people are confused in chat. No, the A1 drops bombs. The Paladin does not drop bombs. But what Brock was saying is he can literally bomb a Paladin with his A1. That takes some serious skill. So if he can pull that off and he can hit in one go, booyah. But again, I think it would take a bit of an idiot to be still. I would
argue that any gunship is going to should trump a bomber.
In most cases, in most cases. And again, the only thing I can think of that is crew count and crew skill. I would also argue we don't technically have the Paladin in game yet. And once armor comes in, how much can a size 5 bomb, which is equivalent to a size 5 torpedo, you would agree with me, size 5s are made to take out...
Yeah, ships.
No, they're made to take out what size of ship? Size 5? No, size 5 is designed to take out fighters. Paladin is not a fighter.
Size 1 to 4 fighters. Size 5 up are large ships. If you're talking guns.
I might need to go read that then. But my point thing is I thought it would probably survive a hit. But we'll see. Maybe I was wrong there.
And same with my thought with bombs was it was the same type of...
But doesn't the Gladiator have size 5s and the Harbinger has size 5 torpedoes?
Yes.
And they were tailored when they were sold to take out fighters. So if they're taking
larger ships,
I'm gonna have to go read it again.
The torpedo bomber was always to take out the larger ships. It was
the size 5 mines. But the size 5 mines are also made to take out fighters, and they're considered to be the same size as the size 5 torpedos. So I think we're gonna have to go read up on it again because the way I'm reminding it.
Point.
Yeah, because my memory tells me that they will also say push towards fighters. So one of us is wrong, but we'll go read up on it. But,
just to talk about the A1 really fast. So when I was doing Fight for Pyro or whatever it's called, I was doing bombing runs of the sites, which was a ton of fun.
It is,
but I was surprised by the shockwave affecting my ship.
Yeah.
So if you don't get out of that area in an A1, you're knocked all around. It's not like you're just killed.
That could be I was going to say that could be a really cool secondary effect. If you do manage to bomb a Paladin, as an example, you could knock it into the ground from the shockwave. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And we don't know exactly how that destruction is going to work either. Like, what's a shockwave going to do going through a ship? Not just knock the jars off. Could it literally break off a piece of the ship as well? So I think that you're going to have... bombs are going to have secondary damage, if you know what I mean. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, the other question...
But real quick, Lemming, do you remember size 5s, torpedoes, bombs, and mines being for fighters or being for larger?
So I believe in lore, and Algared could definitely correct me on this, that the Gladiator...
It would make sense for us to do a variant of the Gladiator for that, because if we put a module for a bomb bay in there, because the bombs are so much smaller...
I have to run. My wife's calling.
Okay.
Have a good show.
Yep. Because the bombs in the Gladiator are so much smaller than the torpedoes, you'd end up with this massive module with these little bombs, and so they would need. It would make more sense to redo and remodel and do a variant of the Gladiator in that sense.
Yeah.
Chat was saying in terms of sizes, size 1 to 4 was fighters, size 5 to 8 was large, and anything bigger was capital.
Yeah, so that is correct on the torpedo front, right? But the smallest torpedo is still targeted at fighters. So think of because what I'm reading here is a size 5 is just like a fatter missile, right? So it's a bigger one. So like a size 1 missile is to a size 5 torpedo, but it's a torpedo, not a missile. And I think that's where the confusion's coming in, because from everything I'm reading, the size 5 across the board, so the Harbinger, the Gladiator, and the Nautilus, they all were across the board size 5s. And remember, the sentry turrets were tailored at fighters, as were the mines. And again, everything I'm seeing that's coming back up is saying to me that the size 5s from torpedoes are fighters. But you are correct, in the smaller guns,
even for torpedoes was the same. But that's me remembering.
Yeah, it's not what I'm reading, and it's not what I remember. But we'll check and clarify it again.
It's one of those things
this
we do
weekend.
need to check.
It has been a long time, like a really, really, really long time. at least 2-3 years since I've gone back and looked at torpedo stuff. But I did do a quick search. Because again, if you realistically think about it, they are small ships. If you look at, say, something like a Retaliator, it has size 9s. So it would scale with the size of ships to attack it.
And it's going for the biggest things. And but the thing I remember of them saying that basically there was no real difference between a missile and a torpedo. They're basically the same thing. It's just the size, the warhead, and the speed of the weapon.
That's it.
So size 1 to 4 was basically fighters, and then size 5 up with the bigger ships. But there's always that crossover. So can you fire your small missiles at a bigger ship? Yeah. Can you fire your big missiles at a smaller ship? Yeah. But then there's that economy of scale that comes into play as well. So.
All right. Do you want to do the next question for me? If you were so kind.
Yeah. Next question is from Benjamin Frick. Benjamin says, thoughts on the sneak peek of the week, which shows a data pad and code. And the question is it hacking?
I'll bring it up in a minute. I'm just looking at something right now. But I'll get your email. You're gonna get that email, whatever it's called, when I open it though. But
that's okay.
I sometimes get them late too for some damn reason. I don't know why. I don't get them on time like everyone else. And often when they come out during the stream, I'll get them just after the stream ends.
Yeah, of course.
And I've got
always the way, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got no email right now, so I'll just leave that open. If you hear the email noise, we'll go back and check. All right, so what I'm watching is I was watching a video of him doing his bombing runs, but it's just a little bit too long. I can't play sound because apparently it's copyrighted music. But from what I'm seeing, he's pretty accurate. So yeah, keep going, man. Again, you got to remember, a lot of our advice is generalized. I can't take you and compare you to Algared and say who's going to be the better bomber until I both get you in game and see who's the better bomber.
Well, based on my experience of bombing, he would be, because I don't do bombing.
Algared, why did you throw yourself under the bus? I was trying to give an example, but you failed.
Yeah, but
but by the same token, if I take a pipe and a monocle and put it on you, you won't look half as sexy as Algared. So yeah,
it's the it's looking at the role. Someone who doesn't do the role at all versus someone who's doing it all the time. Chalk and cheese as two's better. But then if you get two people who do it all the time, So Commander Riley, the giveaway. There is no giveaway actually in this one.
Actually, there is, but what we do is we tell people about the tier list video, and in the tier list video, if you leave a comment, we just remind people on this stream. Yeah, okay, sorry to cut you off.
So that's what I was doing. Doing giveaway in here doesn't get you it. You need to go to our previous video,
this one here,
the tier list video.
Yep.
Leave a comment in that, and that puts you in the draw to win the Paladin.
Essentially, the title for this video is just a reminder to go put it in that one because we just want
otherwise we forget.
Yep.
And we forget to tell you. And
yep.
So that's how you get into the draw for that. Go to that video and add a comment.
All right. Next question, please, bud.
Alpa Cavalici says, Super Hornet Heartseeker Mark 1 be a rare item since it will not be on sale again and most of them will be upgraded to Mark 2. Do you advise keeping a Mark 1 like a collector's item? Thank you.
I would argue, Algared, that they will be earnable in-game as an item of some form. I don't think you would disagree with me on that, right?
No,
you might not be able to buy it, but you'll definitely be able to earn it. But I think half the reason why you can't buy it is because you've got to buy the one that costs more.
Yeah. Look, I think part of the reason why the Heartseeker was almost done as it is because it had a bespoke skin. It didn't have the newer form of the skin, and that's what made it unique. The weapons on it weren't unique.
There's another. Social Kung Fu just brought out a really good point. You could also earn the blueprints and build it yourself. That is 100% correct. I agree with that as well.
Yeah, and that'll be how they'll get around the uniqueness of ships. I imagine we'll be able to find eventually blueprints for the Raven and the Amiga.
100%. Like, I am trying to get this confirmed at the moment through multiple devs, but nobody really has a solid answer because I keep going backwards and forwards this with multiple people, right? Even Astropub and I have this argument, and I don't care which way it goes. I just want it confirmed. So if you're a CIG Jev and you could get me answered on this, I'd really like to know. And the question I asked was this. I'll read it out because I wrote it really clearly. Items like the best in show skins, will they eventually be available in-game again, like through a rep grind for an AIE event or some other method, or are we never able to get them again? Now, from what you and I know, we would reply, yeah, eventually they're going to be available in a game again because that's what we were told in the past. But some people are reading that as in, yes, they were available in game when they came out, and now you can't get them again. I don't agree with that, but that's how they portray it. Because by that analogy, that means I got my Banu Merchantman and it was only available for one day, and I was told it was never going to be sold again. Well, we know how that turned out, right?
I just go back to a comment from, I think it was from Tyler, referring to the Banu cubes.
Yeah, that's what I went to.
And his comment was that this is the first real limited item.
So it was, his words were, this is the first ever in-game exclusive item. Now you'll be able to get a Banu cube, but what they gave out at that Bar Citizens that year were replica Banu cubes. So they're just a box. They don't do anything. If you ever want to see it in game, I'll show you. It's literally just a box. You can do this. But eventually they'll have a Banu cube that you can click the buttons on, and it's like a puzzle box. And they've got fidget spinners and all this type of stuff that you can do. And if they are exclusive, they're a replica of what the real thing will be. So they're just like, it basically makes the replica for now and the real thing when the game comes out. That implies to me, based on like the other one I look at is, look at all the subscriber flee that's now in the game. That was,
well, even,
you know,
they say subscribers, most of us subscribers flare can be found in loot boxes. And the only thing I think that I haven't seen or heard of are the Benny Cube, or the Benny Box, and the Jukebox. Oh, and the drink cabinet.
But eventually,
and
the like, because one of the reasons I asked this a lot, right, is there literally people like, so people will that I'll give a real quick example. The Eclipse white best in show skin with the yellow paint. Yellow glass, right? I can't remember what year it was. The last time I saw that for sale, it was $1,500, right? Now, the reason why I want CIG to answer this is quite simple. They don't get that $1,500. They get nothing. Now, if you were to encourage a person to not buy that, but just buy a normal Eclipse, then they get $300, right? So it's in CIG's benefit to kind of cut off this second-hand selling shit and encourage people to buy new rather than used.
Yeah. It's a bit like the old FA upgrade kit that was sold. You know, it was sold for $20.
Yep.
Originally, but was going for hundreds of dollars just because people wanted the F7A.
So I like to bring this out from time to time to make Mr. Algared really jealous, but Algared will tell you he will eventually be able to get this. This is the oldest thing on my account. And Algared doesn't have it, and I like to rub it in his face. So that's why we're looking at this. But long story short, it's an AM1 X repair bot, a record breaker skin, and a Squadron 42 mission disc. But you'll be able to get all those, right? Yeah. There's this, I think there's another one you don't have, which is an RSI class, what is it? It's a prototype suit, I think it is, from memory. RSI class 2 spacesuit, test pilot colors, right? So all that's going to be is one of the RSI suits with a colored skin type thing on it. That's all that'll be. They're literally not going to, because back then there was not many people. They're not going to make an exclusive suit. They may make some exclusive colors, and guess what? You'll be able to earn it in game. They literally said that on the Kickstarter page. So even when I get it, I'll have it for however, like, okay, maybe it's the hardest item in the entire game to get, but Algared will be able to get it. And knowing Algared, he will go get it. He will get all these ones that I have that he didn't have, just like I'll go out and get the things that he has that I don't have, because that's how we are.
Well, you'll get some things that I've got. You'd go for weapon skins or ship skins, and I'll go for some other thing that we, because we like collecting things, but like collecting different things.
I think you would agree that's the one you really need to be salty about. That one right there. Hangar Freeze reward is... You get free starting fees on starting planet. That's astronomically huge. That's massive. That's the only pay-to-win thing I think I've ever seen. Oh, it's not even pay-to-win. It's just I was there first and I get a really good... golden ticket holders get to name their ships like their Wave 1. But that is way up there. Free fees is mad.
Yep. Yep, I agree.
Like when I get 3 javelins like Algared, yes, I'm going to go out of my way to get... No, I think I'll just get... I don't even know if I'll get 1 at this point.
I don't have any free javelins, thank you very much.
3.
3.
3.
Sorry, misheard.
Yeah.
You're talking free things.
Algared doesn't give away shit for free. Are you crazy?
I don't get them for free. Well, I can't say that anymore.
All right. But I think that I think that kind of answers that one. All right. Next question, please, mate.
Next question
is... You beat me to it.
That's that one.
Oh, I do. Actually, wait. I actually do have something that I found that I do want to show you. Did you see this? Because it's big. I think you need to read it. I'll let you read it. Can you read it? I'll send. I will zoom it in, but I'll actually send it to you to read out via Discord. Because I think you need to read this so people can hear, right? And that way you can make your own interpretation. So you go for it. I've just sent it to you on Discord. Read it when you're ready.
Okay, I'll have a read and then you do.
No, read it out. No, read it out. No, read it out loud.
I will read it out loud, but I want to actually peruse it so I actually get the sentence structure right. And put the emphasis where the emphasis needs to be.
Just read it. It's right there. Just read it. I'll read it if you're not going to read it then.
Fine.
All right.
I'll read it. I just want time to go through it first.
Oh, it's just words. All right. Like so many of our peers, this is from Crytek, by the way, right? And just so everyone is aware, Crytek essentially made the starting engine for what became STAR-Engine and Star Citizen is based on, right? And a lot of the people that came over from Frankfurt, they all started at Crytek, right? So like so many of our peers, we are immune to the complexities, unfavorable market dynamics that have hit our industry in the past several years. It pains us greatly to share this today that we must lay off an estimated 15% of around our 400 employees. What is the math? I need to do that. Algared, can you do me the math? Work out what 15% of 400 is, please. The layoffs... 60. That's a lot of people. The layoffs affect development team and shared services. Shared services, everything from a janitor to the person that makes coffee, foot massager, whoever else is extra staff, right? This has not been an easy decision to make, and we deeply appreciate the hard work in our talented team after putting the development of the next Crisis game on hold since the end of last year, which was Q3 2024. We have been trying to shift development over to Hunt Showdown 1886. Now, the rest of it isn't permanent to what we're going to talk about, so I am going to just skip that, right? But that is huge because I just reached out to CIG Divs and said, I see some hiring in your future. And they replied, I hope so.
That's what the Frankfurt team originally were. They were.
That's why we got the expansion of Pupil to Planet and all that shit, because they came over and said, hey, we can do it right now.
The guys came over and they were basically given free reign, and they said, look what we can do. And Chris went, oh my gosh, that's what I want to do in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
And slight exaggeration. And, but yeah, like, that is huge. When I got to the sentence of the 15% layoffs, I paused and went, wow. It's as if Crytek just keeps having troubles. Like that, the reason...
I can tell you the reason they're having troubles. So basically, they, instead of focusing on the game that was making them more money than they've ever made, which was Hunt Showdown, they wanted to go back and work on another Crisis. Now, Crisis never really did exceptionally pretty well. It did okay, right? But it was never they essentially left Hunt Showdown to die for 4 years, and it didn't die, right? It is a really cool game. They had a really unique thing, and they monetized the shit out of it, and they still monetize the shit out of it. And
it
still hasn't died, right? Yeah. It is a really good game. There is nothing else like it. All it's going to take is another good game company come along and essentially make a game. So for those that don't know, it's set in 1896. It's essentially the sequel, which is what they made here. But essentially it's got these really old guns. And one of the cool things about that, like if you, when you fire the gun, there are consequences because you've got to reload them. You can't just rapid fire. There's no like Uzi or anything like that. It's all
muskets.
Yeah, all muskets and stuff like that. The crazy thing is the game came out in 1895 and it's been out for 6 years, so technically we're up to 1901. But they just made the sequel, not 1896. But it's also set in like a weird west. So it's kind of like this old USA bio swampland, and it's kind of like got Louisiana with zombies and swamps and stuff like that. So it's got all these it's PvE, if you know that type of game.
Yeah.
And it's one of the very first ones that we ever made, and it's an extraction shooter. And this is back so they were doing this back when battle royales were really popular. And this is now really popular because really this was the evolution of battle royales before everyone else was doing extraction shooters. Now everyone's trying to copy these guys, right? We've had Battlefield come out and do it with Firestorm. We've had multiple extraction shooters come out. This is still one of the best out there, and this is before battle royales had kind of died off. So that's how long it's been around. They just left it languish. That's the problem. Their top creative team clearly wanted to do this. And if you actually look into the history of this game, it was originally designed as a 4-player, I think Left 4 Dead. And the people that were working on it didn't like where they were taken into the extraction shooter part. So they left, and they've actually now made 2 games called Revenant from the Ashes. And they've made 2 games in the time that they've been still working on this. They were just so distracted and chasing money. Like they chased CryEngine, they tried to sue them. Instead of just doubling down on their really good shit, they were just all over the shop. Anyway, Algared?
Well, my take is that, you know, they've always going to have money issues. Like that was the reason why we got the Crytek guys. They weren't paying, you know, what I heard, Crytek were having payment issues of their staff, and staff weren't getting paid. So they left.
That's like, well,
went to where they were getting paid.
It just shows you how strong Hunt Showdown was, right? They have had staffing problems since 2014. They've had cash flow problems, and I don't want to put my money in the wrong place, but I'm pretty sure this is the only game that has ever come out in the last 10 years. That's a company of 400 employees. Now, I'm saying that they were always that big, but 400 employees from 2014 on one game. And they did not back it. Are you mental? And they only started backing it like 2 years ago.
And like they focused on more of a crisis games, and Hunt Showdown is a good game. Like not necessarily my cup of tea, but it is a good game. It is kind of, you're going on a mission, you've got to get the certain things to kill the boss, but then you've also got other players who are also trying to do the same thing, and so it gets to a point where it is a PvP show-off. But if you don't do it right, you end up being nabbed by the NPC boss as well. So
good mix, isn't it?
It is a good game. It is a good mix. It is a very good mix.
I've never had a game that's got more tension in it than that. And I've got several people. Essay, he plays the shit out of it. He was really bad when he first started, but very quickly came up and surpassed me. And he is often regaling me story, because if you've ever used the crossbow and it's really hard, he plays these full stealth bow, like he plays like Rambo. He just goes in on a single guy.
Why does that not surprise me?
He goes into a single guy into trios and just like crossbows and bows and arrows people to death, and it's so good to watch. And I do not have the patience he has, right? So that's my weakness, but I still enjoy playing it with him from time to time. But all that aside, I think it's very good news for CryEngine. Potential 60+ people. Now, not all of those are developers, and let's be honest, they're not going to keep their best. They're going to probably they're going to keep their best and get rid of the worst. But when you have an engine like CryEngine, where if you look at, like, because it's also been left to languish, Amazon picked it up, Crytek kind of dropped the ball. All the other game companies that were making Crytek engine games, they've kind of moved on. So if Crytek drops X number of employees, you can see both Amazon and CIG would be wanting to pick those people up. So I think, let's just say for argument's sake, 30 of them are developers. I think there's a really strong chance that at least 15, because I'm going to split that in half again, 15 to Amazon, 15 to CIG. That's a nice number. That's not something to be sniffed at. That's 15 people you don't have to train as much.
Yeah, because they've got some basic knowledge of the system, of the program.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good thing, and yeah, that's.
We'll see what happens.
Anyway, moving on.
Yep, go for it. I know that one's not your wheelhouse. That was a more developer question, but that's fine.
It was.
Stream questions. Stacks. Was that you, Lemming?
Gideon.
Was that you, Lemming?
Stacks Gideon says.
No, hang on. I think Lemming. Nope, wasn't Lemming. It was you. All right, Stacks Gideon. Someone breathed.
Gideon.
So he said, do you think we will get a medium salvager? Though the fortune might have hit the spot when it first heard it was coming, but it's just small. I think the take that we aren't definitive, but there's no technical drum muncher. Now, some people think that the munchers may be being removed from the game entirely. I will believe that when I see it, because we know that salvage is a placeholder at the moment. I kind of think the vulture could be the medium already, because it does technically fall into that pad size. It's just whether CIG thinks it is or not. Like, for example, you can put the fortune in a Polaris. You can squeeze the vulture in, but it's clearly not meant to go there. So the vulture being the bigger one, you could count it as the medium, and therefore there would be room between the vulture to the reclaimer for another one. Algared, your thoughts?
No, look, basically everything you said, and it's hard to say because CIG don't follow their own rules, as we discovered
when we were there.
When we were there, you know.
Yeah, because the Polaris is a Corvette, but so's the Ironclad. But by what we know, it ain't. It's the whole size down. So yeah, hang on. I'll see if I can delete some of these and
pull it up.
Yeah.
So that factor does kind of raise, you know, are we getting a medium? Are we not getting a medium? Could they make changes to the vulture to make the arms pull back a little and make it a smaller ship so it fits in place and make a bigger ship? Do they make it? Yeah. I'll let you just pull that up.
Yeah, it's good. Polaris. Yeah. So like they are meant to be in the same size class. They are not. Yeah. There's a 46 meter difference, and
it almost, just looking at it, almost looks like two Ironclads make one Polaris.
I think John was a little shocked when I said, "Hey, they're not even in the same size class." He kind of got that confused look on his face when I said it. I said that like you're talking like S4 versus S5, like they're completely different. But he literally called that a Corvette, and I, based on their own nomenclature, I don't agree with that. But they are the words that came out of his mouth.
Yeah,
so
when we said, you know, we asked him about the video where you know, he gave a smile when people said, "There's a Corvette coming," and he said, "Yeah, I said that because, you know, are we getting a Drake Corvette?" And he gave a smile, and we said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, at that point, the Ironclad was in production."
Well, we even asked him, "Was there another one coming?" Didn't we?
Yeah.
I said, "Is there a ship?
Is there one coming?" And he said, "Well, when I said that, the Ironclad was in production."
Yeah, and we were like, "What? Oh, so you think that's a Corvette?" And anyway, and I went, "No, that's not a Corvette. A completely different size class."
So that was, you know, we were asking, okay, we were thinking, Ironclad, Corvette, Kraken would be the line of the ships in the size,
or something between the Ironclad and the Kraken, weren't we? And I think eventually we will get one. Let's be honest, but I just, they're not even the same ballpark. Like 40 meters is a lot. Like I'm trying to think of it. Yeah. A Freelancer is 38. I could probably put one of those in just to so you can kind of get.
But it was that kind of, that was probably one of the moments.
There you go. That kind of shows you the difference we're talking. It's not a small amount of length, and you got to also remember it's a bigger ship, so it's also width as well. Yeah. Like look, because I think we'd also argue that the ironclad is what would you possibly say half the width?
Yeah, half the width.
Yeah. So
you take off the bridge of the Polaris and you put two,
Well, I'd almost argue they're about the same width. Yeah, not quite, but
at the bridge. But if you push it back to the engines, you get two Polarises next to each other, and then you've got the bridge of a Polaris kind of.
Well, you've also got to remember that you're going to have structure inside this that doesn't fit either. Just like you got structure inside the engines and stuff like that. So, like, think about the whole engine room back here. You can move the dead space around in different places on ships. So, yeah, I think you guys would agree with us. They are not quite in the same class. But again, it's up to CIG what they call their stuff. Yep. We just have to live in their world.
And but yeah,
love horrors.
I could see Drake calling it a Corvette.
Yeah,
this is a Corvette ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't fit the actual normal thing of a Corvette. And I could see that's why, I could imagine revisions for a Corvette coming and Drake put this up and the army go scoffing at them and saying that's not a Corvette. But hey, Drake call it a Corvette. So
yeah.
That's my law rationale for them. But U7F76 says, I bounced the Mark II Super Hornet in and out of my cart over the last few days, but I can't bring myself to buy one.
Buy yourself a CCU. Just buy yourself a CCU.
Then the price point is off, in my opinion.
Yep.
My fleet is pretty much set since IAE 2553. Yep. Buy yourself a CCU or an upgrade.
Did he say kit? Or did he say the ship? I didn't hear the question.
He said ship.
Yeah, if
it had the ship.
Yeah, then just get the CCU and sit on it, because then you can make your mind afterwards. It might cost you $10, $15, or even $5 if you can get it. Let's have a look. Man, I'm not even going to bother. Let's just go have a look real quick. I'm going to tell you which one.
If you're not sure on the ship, just buy the upgrade to the ship. Usually from the closest ship to it. So you're looking at $5, $10 depending on what's available, and then.
And hopefully one that's available all the time too.
And then you mull it over and then you at least lock the price in.
Yeah. There's no reason for FOMO anymore. You can remove it all for very little. It's good to have a pool of credits there to play with. And it just removes those needs to panic, so to speak. All right.
And even if it's a war bond version of the upgrade available. Pay $5 for the war bond version or $10 for the war bond version and get a slight discount.
Well, I'd be doing the Hurricane. So that's $10. The Hurricane's been out. What was the other option there? It was a Hurricane. I think it was one other one. I'd personally go the Hurricane. Hurricane is. I don't think the Hurricane's available all the time though. Taurus is available all the time.
Taurus is available all the time.
Yeah, so $20 for a Taurus or $10 for a Hurricane. You can again, Invictus coming around again, you'd be able to buy it in Invictus. So if you want to kick the can down the road for $10 at Invictus, you can change your mind. And guess what? Yep. If you then also haven't made up your mind, you could get a Taurus to Hurricane at Invictus.
Yep.
Boom. I hope that gives you a couple of outputs there. So yeah.
And that how you kind of make your dollar work instead of chucking in $250 or whatever it is they're charging for the upgraded Super Hornet.
That's a nice little point too. Jack UK also points out the Hurricane may get a war bond because it's an Invictus. Yeah, absolutely. Hurricane often gets war bond one, so you might get it down again. But again, look, I don't want to say anything because I'm going to review this thing. But look, long story short,
who's doing the leaks now?
Shut the fuck up. Long story short, me and Algared will tell you, you already know what we're going to say if you know us this well. At $55, that's a hard pill to swallow. But if you were going to buy it, now is kind of the time if you're going to buy it war bond because it's $20 cheaper. So it's $30 and you kind of start, or $35, and you start to go, okay, that's a bit more tangible. But here's the question that I really put. Who was the person that asked the question?
U7F76.
How shitty are you going to feel if you've actually got to pay an extra 20? So 55 over 35. Get the war bond, sit your ass on it, de-stress. It's only $10. $10 is not going to break the bank. That's less than a movie ticket. You'll be good. Just do that. And then you can take your time and,
4 cups of coffee.
Yeah. And the Hurricane's available multiple times a year. You'll be good.
Be a maggot for the day and have coffee withdrawal and miss out on 4 coffees. There you go. That's one way.
This week in Algared's torture tests.
But yeah, look, that'd be if I'm bouncing around on a ship and tossing it that much.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the price factor being the thing that's stopping me. Upgrade. Do an upgrade from a closer ship to it.
I'll also say this, right? And I'll probably say this on the review on the weekend as well. I'm expecting out of all fighters in the game, that to be the most middle of the road thing. And I mean specifically the Super Hornet. It does 2 people. It is probably the most. It's the first ship that ever appeared in the game, but it's the best variant of the first ship that ever appeared in the game. If I was only ever going to buy one fighter, that would be it. But it is a fighter.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think it'll be readily available. I think you'll be able to buy it every corner ship outlet in the verse. So I don't think you're going to be hard pressed to find it, right? So again, it's very much an earn down. But if you want it for now, have an extra strategy, be cool. Again, if you roll your kit into your purchase decision, the kit will probably roll off into the game as well, and the skins. So you might not own a Super Hornet, but you might own the skins for it. So then when you eventually get a Hornet, you don't have to go rep grind for the Hornet Heartseeker.
Even with the skin, unless you are absolutely dead set certain that I want that particular skin, I'd still say it's not worth it. Like I used to say the Heartseeker wasn't worth it because you're paying for the ship for the skin and the extra weapons, but every weapon and missile rack or whatever it had on it, you could get in game.
But just to Riot's thinking a little bit like you in Twitch chat, Algared says, if the Heartseeker is a rockin', don't come a knockin'. That's essentially what he said. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
It's 2-seater, like the things people do. I'll leave it at that.
The things people do.
Right. Next question. Ben says, what do you think about owning multiples of the same ship, like 2 Polarises or 2 Perseuses? I'm debating doing a chain to another Perseus. I think that is valid for people that frequently use the same ship. I think the more a ship explodes, if you're in a hyper dangerous kind of profession. So I think like a smaller fighter that you use a lot could be warranted. A smaller vehicle you use a lot. The bigger though, I think it becomes more, does my mate also have one? Because let's be honest, you just mentioned Perseus and Polaris. You're not going to be in those on your own. And is it on you to also have 2 of them? Wouldn't it be better that, let's say, for example, let's give a simple example. I've got a Perseus, and Algared's got a Polaris.
Oh, okay.
Would it be better for Algared to get a second Polaris, or for me to get the Polaris? And then he gets a Perseus. You see where I'm going? Because if one day Algared and I fall out, I've still got that ship that I learned to enjoy and love. But if you've got 2 Perseuses, you've then lost a Polaris. You see where I'm going?
And the other side is, if we've got those, we go out in the Perseus, it gets blown up. We spawn my one, we go out again.
And there are plenty.
So I get the idea of having multiples because I've done that myself.
Yeah, it is handy, and you will get loners because right now I've got 2 Polaris loners. But I would, in the end game, I think you'll find that once more engineering comes on board and stuff like that, and you're actually working with those other peoples that like those same ships, you'll have a Perseus, he'll have a Perseus, and you'll not only just have them, you'll also have them in different spots. So we're in Pyro, and then we want to travel 5 systems over to Terra or whatever, then we'll go use Algared's same version of the ship. It'll be things like that. And you want it that way so you can maneuver quickly, right?
Yep.
I think the other part of this obviously is a bit profession based as well. And the last part I'd say is there's also a lot of ships Still to come.
Yeah.
Build a chain out to the second Perseus, the second Polaris, but don't link them. And then they drop X, and all of a sudden X is what's that? The Anvil capital ship that's been rumored since you and I were toddlers. Whatever that means, that might come out and you want it. You know, think about how the Ironclad came out last year, and all these people all of a sudden want to upgrade their Caterpillar or pivot away from something else, from the Hercules to it. It'll be no different. The Perseus 2.0 drops, and it might be better than the Perseus.
Now, I'll just clarify, because you said don't link your
chains.
Yeah, and I assume you were meaning don't apply them.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. Leave them unlinked.
So leave them unplied. So you just got them in your hangar ready to go, and that way you've got the ability to have a ship, but you're also got that massive ability to pivot away if it ends up being the one.
So you can
the nuances of using the upgrades. The other thing I'll say is there are two of the reasons you mentioned are exactly the two reasons why I've got multiple ships. One is because the intention is to have them in different locations. The other one is because I know that if a ship gets blown up, like the Javelin or the Endeavour or the big ships, the time for them to be available again is going to be significant. If you've got the second one, you can go out again fairly quick. But that can be offset by your org or your friends having the same ship and then being able to team up with them. And so
Wolfblitz asks, if they built the ship, why do they still have loaners? No, they don't give you loaners if the ship is out. So, for example, I actually own a Polaris, but I also own a Kraken. Kraken's not out, so they give it as a loaner. And I also get a Caterpillar and I think a Buccaneer. And then the other one is if your ship is not very good at Arena Commander, so it might be like a Mole, they give you a fairly good PvP ship, so you can do that as well.
Commander.
Yeah. Hope that answers your question. Wolfblitzer was just mentioning that in Twitch chat, so yeah.
So White Wolf, with a fortune having a laser to salvage ships, what does that mean for the future of salvaging regarding munching from your perspective? I think we answered that kind of sort of earlier. I don't think that question came up, but I think we answered one very similar.
With the fortune having a laser to salvage ships, does this mean in the future? So right now, if you look at the Vulture's a really good example, right? You have your strippers. You have to actually break the ship apart with blast charges, and then you have to go take those broken chunks after you've blasted them apart and essentially suck them in through these tumble drums that cut them all up, push them into the compactor. The compactor crushes them all down, and it prints out the boxes. The Reclaimer is much the same, except instead of it blasting them apart, it will eventually cut them up with lasers. But there is nothing like that on the Fortune. The Fortune has the scraper, and it has these, where the lights were, these things that will break the stuff apart. But then how do you take the broken pieces inside? Now, right now, the way the game works is you just suck it up. There's no step where you've got to pick up the chunks. So I'm wondering, in the final kind of thing, is there a hidden element that we don't know on the Fortune, or is it only ever going to be a scraper and dismantler? So it's just like an assistant salvager, not an actual collect the chunks one. And that's a serious downgrade if that's the case.
And the other option is, CIG go, we're going to still use a disintegrator type stuff, and that means the grinding drums in the Vulture become redundant and need to be redone, and the Reclaimer needs to be done.
Exactly. But I think we'd agree,
we don't know
though,
which way they're going to go, though.
That's a fairly big downgrade to salvage if that happens. It's a massive downgrade because it takes it from like a 5-step process, and it's one of the biggest steps, disappears.
Yeah, and I think that would be the negative of doing that, would be reducing. There'd be a bonus in it, it's less work, but it makes salvage less complex, and that seems to be contrary to what CIG are wanting in their professions. They're wanting those steps and that development. So
I think any way it goes, you would agree with me, with all the issues the Reclaimer now has and the things that have happened to salvage, that is unfortunately going to need quite an extensive rework now. The claw's changed. It now it's some kind of claw with teeth on it, almost like it's doing the munching. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. Maybe it's just a cutter, so maybe it doesn't cut with lasers anymore. Maybe the claw is what breaks the ship apart. We don't know. They've never told us, but we're just trying to show you both sides of it to show you which way it can go. And until they tell us, there's just no way to go. That's it.
I would like to see the more complex solution, just because it gives
absolutely
the breadth of the profession. But
I wouldn't rule either out, I think is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Steve S.
Yep.
So the Perseus is the first concept ship I bought. Well, congratulations. That will be released. What concept ship that you bought has really impressed on you when it was released? Well,
I thought he was going to say, what concept have I brought that I'm still waiting for? I brought the Banner Merchantman back in 2013 on the one day it was only ever going to be available. I'm still waiting. So yeah, Algared, what about you? What to answer his actual question? What is?
I probably all of them, really. Every ship when it comes out, I like going over it with a fine-tooth comb and looking at them. I really did like the Perseus, the Polaris when it came out and going through that. But I also like going over the Connie when it came out, and the Freelancers, and you'd know, like back in the old hangar days, a ship would be released to the hangar, and you'd spend hours just sitting in the hangar, just checking out the ship and all the components. And
all there was to do back then.
Yeah.
Even now, there are times.
I got it. I know which one it was.
What?
It was the PTV.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time in the PTV.
The first playable vehicle ship we had in game was a PTV.
Look,
and it was a lot of fun.
I said that at the earlier on in the show, like right near the beginning. I think any release of a ship is cool to enjoy.
Yeah.
Whether it's new one that they're trying to get you to buy, or it's.
I love the concept shows. Yeah. I love seeing the concept. I love seeing the ships when they went to hangar. I love seeing them flyable.
Look at the Polaris last year. That was an event. Yeah. You know, people would pulling other people onto their Polaris, going, "Yeah, let's go out." And you know, every content creator, and I know everyone I talked to that were just regular folks, was like, "Oh, that was an experience, getting on all there together and seeing how all the teamwork works and stuff like that." And you just start to take that and roll it over to other stuff. It really elevated how people thought about it. You know, like we don't even have engineering yet, and people will start. I think the Polaris really turned around what people thought about engineering, because a lot of people were generally scared that they were going to have a lot of trouble manning these larger ships, and I don't think they will. I think the Polaris showed that people are going to want to work together.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it was really the first ship that showed that group gameplay being there. Like we've said in the past, you know, the Hurricane was great, but the Polaris really just did it.
I'm not going to reply to that, but I am going to text it. The visual. And that person just put a visual. I don't need to say that. Right. Rotten Treat says, if you could.
Yeah.
I just read it.
I just read it.
If you could only pledge one ship for 1.0, what would it be, and why is it the Misk Endeavor? Well, the Misk Endeavor one, I think we can say is obvious. But if you could only have one ship, Algared, going into 1.0, what would it be? And I'm going to make it a for now, as in like now was 1.0. So you can upgrade it later or get more later or whatever. But for 1.0, if it was only one ship, what would it be?
Oh. I think I've still got to go with the Endeavor. The Endeavor.
It won't be out by. It won't be out for 1.0.
Yeah. Okay, it's not out.
It's pretty obvious. It's the Pioneer. The Pioneer should be out by 1.0, and that'll be massive. And like all the you think about the Polaris that we were just talking about before, and the teamwork there. Now imagine the teamwork of like massive mining ships, massive salvage ships, massive cargo ships, all bringing their ill-gotten gains to this one ship to essentially create a city or town. That is just going to be amazing. That is like a Polaris on a different level. Like we were talking 5 to 6 people. Now try to pitch what was a whole server before, like 50 people. That's mad.
Building new Hurston, yeah.
And Algared goes off with the other miners. I go off with the other salvagers, and we all do our little independent thing, and then come home to nest for the day. And hey, we've built another building today, and then tomorrow we build another one. You see this? It's like Ark Survival Evolved, but way more complex.
Like, well, I was thinking Star Wars Galaxies.
That too. Pick your game.
You know.
We're going to another level, boys and girls. That's where we're heading, and that's why I'm excited for it. And again, some people, like one of the things I realized in doing this, we've had people come on Fix My Fleets and other shows, and I don't want to, this is not a critique, different people see things in different ways, and some people do not have the foresight, imagination, whatever word you want to use. They cannot read things on a page or look at statistical data like Algared and myself and many other people and project what that will be. They have to experience it and live it to understand it, right? And so remember that guy, I don't even remember the guy's name, but he would only buy ships that he'd tried. Do you remember the guy? Do you remember the Fix My Fleet?
I vaguely remember it.
That's the guy I'm talking about. So he may never buy a Pioneer until the Pioneer's in game. So it's like the Polaris. The Polaris comes out, and now people have that foresight. Well, it's not foresight anymore. It's hindsight. But they can now feel what you and I were predicting and others were projecting and seeing, and can take that on board. And that's the cool part of this. It's what was speculation and belief and faith is now catching up to reality, and virtual reality anyway.
Crazy hopium, yeah,
yeah, crazy hopium. But every time a gear grinds or a cog falls into place, we're getting that little bit closer to that dream.
Yeah.
All right.
But
go ahead.
I just thought he was picking up, the fact that we have a cult of the Endeavour, and it's true. Like when you look at the Endeavour. It is the Swiss Army knife. It is the do-all everything, and I unfortunately do not expect it anytime soon, just based on talking with John and Ben, and that really did. Like we knew it was going to be hard. Mm-hmm. We always knew it was going to be hard, but when they said just because of all the parts on it and how big it is, and the gameplay and the fact that it's basically multiple different ships, you start to go, that thing may never come. They're almost going to be better off just to do variants of a ship, and I don't even think they're sure how they're going to work the Endeavour with as modules.
If we ever get around to making another shirt for the ship team, it's probably going to be around the Endeavour. Something like "I'll endeavour to make the Endeavour soon," or something like that. Yeah.
I'll endeavour. I endeavour to do it. Yeah, something like that. But
I will endeavour to make the ship, or something like that. I don't know.
It is a nightmare of a ship. Just looking at the parts, and you can understand why John rolls his eyes and almost buries his head in his hands, and because it is an absolute nightmare. How do you deal with all these modules and on a massive ship, and I think CIG are still battling about how do we deal with ship? Do we do it as variants? Do we do it as limited modules? So
right. AMD 300. Oh, I've just skipped one, but I'll come back to that one. I'll come back to it. Will the Paladin be a long-range patrol ship? I think, honestly, it'd probably be a little bit more defensive and almost the opposite of the Redeemer, because we know the Redeemer is going to be a long-range. With all the armor and that, it'd be almost like going Perseus to Hammerhead. Would you kind of agree with that one, Algared? Where the Perseus has got all the armor, a bit more short range, where the Hammerhead doesn't have as much armor, so it's more likely, and it's got the lasers and stuff, so it's shields to lasers type of thing. One's built for endurance and refreshing, and and the other's is ballistics, and it's home and it needs to reload, and it's got armor, etc. So that's kind of how I see it. So the Paladin might go back and get more armor, it might go back and get more ammo, where the Redeemer relies on shields and lasers to stay out in the fight, but they're obviously not going to be, ballistics are more stronger, as his armor is going to be more stronger than shields. Anyway,
the question for me is which one is going to be best suited for ships like the Javelin, and I say that because the Javelin, when it was originally concepted, was envisaged to have the
Redeemer inside it.
Redeemer as its Marines kind of ship to go and check the cargo of other ships or do that type of stuff. So, which ship is going to be best suited to fulfill that role out of those two? But that's just
it's a
where my
good
mind
question.
goes.
Well, to that fact, if I just give me a second, because the last time we saw a javelin, so I'll switch this over. We saw Redeemer. We saw a Vanguard in it. Remember? So that will give us a rough size, and this is back before they did bespoke. So if you kind of look at here, I'm curious if the Paladin would even fit. And I'm not saying it will, and I won't say it won't, but I think this will give us a really good oof. See, that doesn't look too good when you look at it like that. Well, that's it from above. So you got the big wig span. It'll
May just.
The
width is right.
Yeah, technically
just
could
because
fit.
of the wings.
But also, if you go to the side again, it's the same height. So technically, it might be the biggest ship that can fit in there. Well, again, we'll have to wait and see what they endeavored or planned for it. But I wouldn't rule that out until I heard or saw that as a solid no. Because you being a gunship, that was probably a part of the plan to say, hey, what if we put this in the Javelin instead of the Redeemer?
Well, I know the idea of a Redeemer from, because we're talking the concept of the Javelin back in 2014, which is more or less the same time as the Redeemer was concepted. The idea was that it was that dropship. So gunship, the gun dropship for dropping people off in so I'm just getting beeped and it's distracting.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it was the idea of that ship being what the Marines would use for going in and checking out other ships and being able to use as a dropship for that type of thing.
And I think you'd agree
the Redeemer doesn't really do that. So
actually, it is more of a dropship in its current. It's the long range escort, and they said that the last time John Crew talked about modules, the most likely module would be the original dropship variant. So that's probably also why they had the hoplite in the Javelin. But again, between the Paladin and the Redeemer, I think you would agree the Redeemer is more still like what is better required for the Javelin, so you can drop people off in a combat scenario than the Paladin, because the Paladin's really made for fighting. And let's be honest, the Javelin can already do that. It doesn't need more fighty fight. But it would be cool to have it as a to help out, like cover at 6 or whatever. I could see that. I think this is going to be where it's at though for the Javelin, because you can insert people and pull them out. Kind of essentially extend the range down to the planet. You can't take the Javelin down.
And that was the idea of that dropship that the Javelin had in its hangar. And they tried to say, this isn't a hangar like every other ship, it's a specific hangar. And so they even limited the other ships you could put in. So back in the day, it was like one other X ship, 3 arrows or 2 arrows and 3 auroras and 3 Pisces type stuff. So they tried to limit back in the day what you'd be able to put in the hangar of the Javelin, but the initial concept was the dropship.
First time chatter on Twitch from Space Dad, who says, any opinions on the Saber comment? And I just said, yes, don't get one. Just get a normal Saber. You're paying $15 for a skin and a couple of weapons, and it's not really worth it. Why would you want to be locked into, and you're not locked in, but buy the weapons in game and buy any other skin that probably looks 10 times as good as the Saber comment.
The frustration with ships like the Comet and some of the other specialist ships where they gave a different loadout. They weren't bespoke loadout. That meant you could go into game, you could take off the weapons you had on your ship, buy the weapons racks or the missile racks and put them
Yeah.
on, and you had a ship that functioned exactly like the Comet or the Heartseeker, all you were missing was the skin.
Right. So Cody Fox says, but the Saber Comet skin is really nice though. You might really like it, but not everyone does. So the thing we've learned about skins, and I think you will agree on this, that's why there's red cars, blue cars, silver cars on the road, is everyone likes different things. If you like the Saber Comet, then you go get the Saber Comet, right? But again, no skin is, because essentially, as Algared just said, those guns are not bespoke. So you essentially are being tossed in some guns that you don't really need and paying $15 for a skin where all the other skins, man, I'll go look at the prices if you really want to, but I'm pretty sure they're I think they're like half the price. So you're paying like $7 for guns that aren't the best because they're kind of like shotgun ones, right? And you're not going to want those all the
stuff
time.
You can get in game.
Exactly.
You know, so
you earn them in game. They cost next to nothing in game.
You know, and then
very subjective.
Which means you're paying premium for a skin. It is subjective.
Yeah.
And you know, if you like that skin and you think that skin is worth $30, then yeah, go for it. But
all right.
I'd rather just have a skin rather than a ship with it perpetually on. But
I'm gonna cut the questions off now because I don't even think we're not gonna get through what we've got left, by the way. So I'm gonna do a, what do you call it, a power round. What do we call these? Rapid fire. Rapid fire. Kinchi Kin says, do you think the stories of CryEngine is focused on will make the game stop being static and the system updates based on the results of content? So essentially, long story short, do you think the story is going to improve the game and kind of work with the content as well?
I think the stories will just make the game play more fun. I don't think it changes the game.
I would also hope they improve over the year as more features go in.
Yeah.
I think it'll be, you know, they kind of, like Disco talked about it kind of getting better over the year. I think the quests and missions will get better as the year goes by.
Yep. 100%. But I don't think the stories themselves will do that. They're just...
No, they'll just add flavor text.
Yeah.
It's a game after all. A game is always only good if it's a good game. But if it's a good game with a story, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Right. Citizen Ninja says, do you think any related ships may get a rework or variant this year? And if yes, which ones? Prospector could use an interior work to be closer to the Fortune, for example. Absolutely.
Any release ships not related, but just to clarify. But yeah, I agree. So
I think after last year, they'd be trying to avoid variants as much as possible because they did a shit ton of variants last year.
Yeah.
I think they would want to try and put as many new ones out as possible before returning to more variants. I don't think it's the last of variants. For example, whatever that Trailblazer ended up being for, and I'm doing this in air quotes because it's clearly a code name, but I think that will clearly come with variants like the Spirit did and like the Zeus did.
No, I would 100% agree with that. I would expect it to be, as you said. I'm not even going to try and redo it.
That's all good.
Rehash it.
You say what you say. Brohawk, speaking of size 7s, a bunch of, we did that one already. God, it took that long to get back to that. Holy crap. Waffle Insanity question. Do you think the Perseus will be undergone from size 7s to size 8 since every ship was increased after master modes? I think they will need to make the changes. We said that earlier. I could see them going up or down a size in guns. They will balance it as required.
They'll balance as required.
Yeah, and no matter how salty you are about it, at the end of the day, if you put your adult hat on and think about it, like step out of the game and go, we all want a really balanced game so we can all have fun. And again, if you are just knocking people's sandcastles over, it gets boring after a certain amount of time. And if you keep having your sandcastle knocked over all the time, you leave the beach. So essentially, you want people to stay around and keep playing. It's got to be balanced. It's the only way it works. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
You go. You read that one.
I was just going to say it ties in with the arguments you hear on other games about PvP versus PvE, and the argument is if you've just got PvE, you actually drive the PvE players away, and then your game just dies because there's not enough people. So you actually need both. But yeah,
and again, we're early days. We don't have enough gameplay to go around. We're going to need all those different gameplays. As the gameplay comes, I'm pretty sure the systems will expand as well. More people.
Question: how are we going to get in and out of the Idris when it is landed? It seems it doesn't have an elevator or ramp that goes down to the ground.
It does have ramps. It's got one at the front, one at the back, and that question was by DeJocko. Next question is Datsun Insult, who says, do you see the way down the track something bigger than a Starfarer? Yes. It's a gas collector that's a large. They definitely need a bigger one. What did I call it? The Nebula was my code name for it. And I think you'll also see smaller ones as well. So fuel and liquid transport and gas collection as well. They used to have underground collection for the Prospector. They don't anymore. I think that's a sign of them splitting it off and making it a whole new ship.
Yep.
Do you want to add to that,
But I will tack on the next part of his question. How would I reconfigure the Starfarer in a rework? I'd reconfigure the Starfarer so it was a carrier for the Fury.
And we do have, there is concept pictures out there of it carrying square pods for cargo, which they still is still a thing. Dub Coyote says, considering that the other old concepts grew, do you know if the Perseus will get bigger? The only concepts that grew that got bigger were the older ones, like the Endeavor and the Crucible. Some things do get bigger because things move around, but the Perseus was in 2020. The Polaris was in 2016. That is a fair difference in time. I think the Perseus has the benefit of time. You would agree with that, Algared?
Yeah. I think we said that earlier.
We did.
I was saying the Perseus, I don't think it may grow a little bit, but I don't see it because the ship pipeline is so much more developed these days, and it is the Perseus and the Paladin are both new ships in the wider scheme of things.
That's an insult. Says, question, does anyone actually use a Redeemer? I multi-crew all the time, but I've never used one. Yeah, I used to use it all the time. I used to take Algared in it all the time because it was just really good. It has got a little bit nerfed, but it's got the movability. I guarantee I'll be taking the Perseus and Paladin out because of my experiences in the Redeemer. It's just really good. And if someone is not the best at combat, I can sit Algared in a turret and he can shoot, and he has a great time. And I can fly for him, and it's totally fine. And if you get bored too, you can switch.
You swap. We did that with the Hurricane.
Absolutely.
We swapped roles in the Hurricane. Oh, let's swap roles, and both times it was a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I think we've done that in the Redeemer as well. From memory.
Yep. Kishkin, science question. Likely waiting on a 2030 answer. It's ironic that you bring that up. We recorded an episode recently with Morphologist, and it'll come out in a couple of weeks' time. But the original idea, as we talked, ironically, the episode morphed and it became a science episode. And the original idea we went in was about creatures and animals and all that, and it turned into shit. This is actually how science could work. And yeah, so it's a really interesting episode. We tend to pull Morph in on these ones that are based around AI and stuff, because he's got I don't know, I think he's got a knack for that. But we actually, this time we said to him, we said, right, we picked the first 3 topics. You get to pick the next. You should pick the next one and come back to us when you're ready. So we've put that ball out there. He'll come. Hopefully he comes back. Or
hopefully he comes back with a nice topic. But
yeah, I'm going to have to reel him back in.
The topic we were discussing certainly changed tack, but as we explored it, it really did open up that science and exploration link.
Yep. So, someone, the next question, you want to read that, Algared? Because I've got to find it while they're doing
So
that.
that's an insult. Wanted to know why no electro hull skin execute. That's because CIG haven't put it in yet.
No. He's talking about when we were going through my hangar, and I do have it, but it's literally like 3rd pages back. I've got all that shit that came out before that. I was literally, so I waited 6 months to switch over from Kickstarter to RSI, and my number is in the 90,000s. Now that sounds really low now, but at the time that was really high. I should have been in the first 16,000, right? But I waited really, really long time. So that's my bad. Not going to matter in the scheme of things, but yeah. So that's why I got all the stuff at the start, and that's probably why Algared couldn't get this, because he just wasn't on Kickstarter.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, anyway, I think I get a few back, but I miss out on a couple of those. So
yeah. So for those of you who don't know why this is so cool and you can't get it anymore, is it's a skin that you can switch between. So you pick the 2 skins. So say I wanted a black skin and a red skin, and I could just switch between the 2. And you can just think of the criminal things I could do with that. Fly behind a moon and I'm red. Next thing I'm black and hey, that looks a lot like that ship, but it's red, not black. I think the other thing is they're going to have to get it so it can change your ID, because if it doesn't change your ID, it's pointless. Absolutely pointless. But maybe they won't do that.
I do believe that was in the completionist pack and did get converted into the
probably would be, yeah,
completionist electronic version, and then also got pushed into.
You should have this.
Invictus.
You have it, yeah?
Regardless. I would have to scroll through my ship log to see.
Oh, the humanity. Oh, no.
I know.
Oh, no.
It is. It's
no.
Oh, all right, just for you.
Oh,
just for you.
Oh, you do that and I'll answer the next question. Go ahead.
Okay.
Right. Brohawk T says, as someone who's getting into game development myself, congrats. That's a noble endeavor. I want to know how a mission fails to function. It keeps thinking it's just a simple if target dies, player pays back check, but it knows it's multiple parts, man. You could literally have a lighting bug and it makes a quest fail. That's why they're called bugs. Right? So you could go ahead, Algared.
I was going to say one bug that we had in Star Citizen was ships were randomly exploding. It took months to work it out why. And they worked out, but it was a 1-point collision as you were flying your ship. You'd bump your ship and cause 1 point of damage.
Yeah. And that's why it seemed random. Yeah. It just exploded. And there was another one that came later that they were able to detect sooner because of that one. And that was when bottles and stuff were doing it. 1 point of damage, 1 point of damage, 1 point of damage, like in the fridges and stuff. And they went, it's
so
probably
redeemers would blow up because they had that. Yeah. The fridge with the drinks in it.
So yeah.
So.
Yeah, but look, if you want to talk more about game development, jump on. The one thing is though, I don't talk about the games I used to work on. He doesn't even know that. And yes. John and Ben asked me, and they didn't find out either. So yeah.
Yes. Finally scrolled down to the bottom of the list, and yes, there is an ultra hull skin.
Oh, there you go. Awesome, cool. Glad you got one. Right. Oz Veteran says, "Do you see them releasing a Gladiator 2 in the future?" I don't think so. I do think it will get a pass, and I do hope it gets what Algared wants, which is the bombs, because that was really promised. Yep. And they did say that would be a variant, though, didn't they, Algared?
Yeah, Ben did say that the Gladiator would more likely get variants than modules.
So not a 2, but a variant.
Yeah. I could see a Gladiator 2 being updated just to fix it. I hope they don't do that.
You've got 5 seconds. 5 seconds. The bomb is ticking. What would be the variant name? And is it better than one in my head that I'll tell you after 5 seconds? 5.
Don't care.
Gladiator Stinger. Anyway, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see 3 variants: the standard, the bomber, and the cargo.
Yep.
Because it was using all 3. All roles. So.
Absolutely. Right. D14 Lone Star. If I have an LTI token in my buyback, do you recommend using a buyback token and store credit, or should I buy it back with new money so that the ship could potentially be gifted later? Depends on, are you going to a much bigger ship? How definite are you that you're going to keep it? Those are questions that you've got to ask yourself. But again, you only need to get the LTI token, buy that with cash, and then just spend credit on everything else. Yep. So really, it's how expensive that, can you afford $30 cash for what, if it is 30, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be spending the money on the LTI token and then credit on everything else up.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Algared?
Yeah. Look,
yep.
If you're confident you're not going to give the ship away, then I just use credits to get it out of buyback.
Yeah.
Spike, if you're not sure, use cash.
Spike64 suggests that you gift it to him. Right. Dijoko says, how can we find the Star Jump stream you'll be on later this evening? Star Jump is available on Twitch and on YouTube. He will be on both, much like we are on both, and he will be on, that'll be in under 2 hours time from now. It's currently 11:06 for me. I know it's scheduled for 1 p.m. my time, so that's under 2 hours from now. Star Jump will be on there, and me. He sent me a schedule and all this shit, and I've forgotten already. But we'll be talking ships. He's like us, isn't he? He likes to talk.
Yep, ships. He likes talking ship.
Yeah. Algared, do you want me to see if I can drag you in on that one, or you got shit to do?
I probably have crap I would love to, but I do have stuff I've got to do.
So it's official. Algared's got a crap to do, right? After this. You guys made it so hard. Anyway, sorry. Right. Phoebe says, question, do you think the Paladin will be ideally placed to support?
I am long-suffering, I'll say that much. I'm long-suffering.
I can't even keep a straight face now. Do you think the Paladin will be ideally placed to support the Perseus as the hammerhead, so it can crew heavy? I actually think the hammerhead and Perseus will work pretty well together. You've got the fighter offensive one, and you got the more defensive bigger ship one. Yeah, they would kind of work well together. I think there's probably room there for something in the middle ground as well. That, like, again, more ships you have, they all cover each other's back. Strengths and weaknesses is a good thing, not a bad thing.
So Phoebes likes the idea of support, but the question is, will the Paladin be as good as a hammerhead? Because the hammerhead is so crew heavy. So Paladin.
Oh, so I read that wrong. I read that as Perseus is good support for the hammerhead. Right. Do I think the Paladin will ideally be placed to support the Perseus? No, not as much as smaller ships. I think it really needs fighter escorts, and they would also come, like, it's a tit for tat thing.
And yeah, I would think that, because I was thinking, I was kind of thinking that Polaris idea, and looking at the Paladin being, looking at the Paladin as an escort, and the hammerhead being an escort. But you use those for your capital ships if you're doing that. And I think it's pertinent that CIG, when they released the Perseus of the pack, had it with 2 arrows. Yeah.
Look, I think you can use the Paladin and the Perseus to cover each other, but I think what I'm trying to say is, like Algared just said there with the arrows, I think it would be better suited to 2 smaller ships, because then you also need less people. So 2 arrows is going to be far less expensive to replace than 1 Paladin. And you got to remember, you got 4 to 5 people in a Perseus. That's another 4 in the Paladin. No.
So
no. Yeah.
That's kind of almost a case. If you've got 4 people in a Paladin and you're looking for fighter escort,
have another Perseus. We'll take a second Perseus.
Yeah, I'll take a second Perseus. Yeah,
can't defend, but yeah, I could just put up all these screens of, because they talked about electric cloud smoke that you could fly into and it would damage you. There's all these different ammo types. So the thing I'd say is go look at the ammo types and just see what that thing's going to do. Like, it's going to have flak and all this stuff. So you could have 1 Perseus doing one type of ammo and one doing the other. So one's long range, one's short one's defensive, one's offensive. So it's a very flexible ship. The only kicker is going to be that fire rate, and we don't know what it is yet. It could be your fire, that if the fire rate's as fast as you can load them, that's just going to all come down to manpower. Can I put 4 extra people on the Paladin, the Perseus, to load it really quick? We don't know that yet. So there are some questions.
Have them run around in spacesuits? Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. All right. Maxwell TV says, question, do you know if the Reclaimer would have a gold standard 1 day? Yeah, every ship in the game's going to...
Everyone.
What was that? The Reclaimer. The Reclaimer better get... Like, the Reclaimer is looking more and more dated by the day, and unfortunately, it's one of those big ships they built, and I guarantee you they learned so much from that ship, and it's the whole reason they haven't done more ships down the line. And I think the 600i would be up there, and I think the 890 Jump would be up there too. They'd be going, I wish we had never done those when we did.
Yeah, I could see them doing
that. But they learned from all of them.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about it. They've learned, and you can actually see that development process in their ship pipeline. In terms of your second question...
Oh, hang on, real quick. What's the thing? You got to crack a few eggs to make a cake or whatever it's called? That was what I was going to say. That's all. But go ahead.
But in terms of your second question, when they get around to it.
Yeah. Right, we're down to the last 2 questions now. So if you want to do those 2, and I'll look for someone to read on Twitch.
So, the next question, I'll get rid of that one because that was a comment. Maxwell TV, do you believe a Polaris will win the ship showdown this year? Well, I'm going to say
no, because the bigger it is, the less people own it. And I think we are... so there's a couple of things. Paul is Astropub is planning to do a community-driven ship showdown because we're just sick of it. And I think we're going to stuff with it again. Because they didn't learn. We gave them 3 years when they said they were going to do things that they didn't do. So we're going to stuff with them again. And whether it's the MPU tracked or MP2UV or whatever it's going to be, we'll let you guys know. But they need to learn that lesson again.
And the other way we're going to stuff with them is we're going to run around.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. Yeah.
So as with by Paul.
Paul's running it. He asked me to be a judge. I don't know if he asked you, but he asked me to be a judge. But yeah, he's essentially going to do his own because, like me, he's just sick of it.
Yep, so, we are jack of the runaround. Okay, Tibble says, when do you think they're coming out with the anime skins and the anime body pillows to match? Imagine a reclaimer with a giant waifu on the side.
Is that what he's talking about? Star Kitten,
shut up and take my money.
Do you think he's talking about Star Kitten there? From just what he said?
Maybe. Star Kitten's a variant, but I think it's the horrible anime paints we get in World of Tanks or War Thunder, where you got the characters and then you get your plane or your tank in their colours and ghastly stuff. Different things for different people. They may. It's not my cup of tea. A bit like our friend the Oompa Loompa.
Oh, Alex, yes, yeah, or Sandig, yep.
Yeah, I was thinking Alex, but I was trying to remember his.
I always stuff it up and call him Alex, which is his real name, so I'm kind of doxing him, but I don't say his last name, so.
So, a bit like Alex, the Oompa Loompa. Not my cup of tea, but got to be something in a game that I like and something that I don't like.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
And the last question.
Yep.
Is from Zenye Ben, who says, do you think they should ever have sold the Pioneer or have done what they are doing with Bengal as they end up game ships? This applies to all end-game ships. So I'm assuming he's saying made all the big ships just like the Bengal where we find them in game and do stuff.
I think there's only a limited number of big ships that we need to find in game. I think they do need org-driven content, and clearly the Pioneer is, like I said earlier, it's a push to build cities for orgs.
And all of those big ships, the Javelin is an org-based ship. It's a ship for org raids.
Yeah.
And I think there's a place for them.
I think you want things at all levels. So you want to be able to do stuff on your own, stuff with a mate, stuff with a bunch of people, and then stuff with
stuff to do with the raid, and then even bigger stuff to do with the server.
I think where most games you level, in this game you build friends. I know that sounds a bit weird to say, but that seems to be more and more what it's like. Well, you can't build a skyscraper. You can't build a skyscraper on your own, but you can build a house on your own if you really want, and it takes a while, but you could build a shed on your own. It's the same analogy. So you get a few friends over.
I look at the contacts and relationships and friends I've made over the years, either on YouTube or by org or Bar Citizens, and I just think that confirms what you're saying.
We do see YouTube comments, but you've got to @ us. So if you @ Inforunners on either Twitch or YouTube, they are highlighted. Most of our questions come through the Discord, and we do look at chat as well. But you got to remember, we've got 5 screens looking at once. You've got Discord going up here, got Twitch going over here, YouTube going over here, and I'm also checking to make the health of the stream and messages and all that shit.
So first chatters on Twitch come in a little box. That becomes visible for us.
Yep.
If you @ us on YouTube, it highlights our name and we say, and that draws attention to it. Or if you do a super chat and put a question in with your super chat, it fills up the screen. So,
which is why your message came up, because you're a first-time chatter on Twitch. So all right, you got a choice: 2 people, HC Vertigo or Yo-Yo Meg. They're the only 2 people on there that
Yo-Yo Meg.
Yeah. So we ran into her at CitizenCon, didn't we? That was the last time I saw her.
I believe so.
So we'll have a quick look and see what she's doing. Let me just open it and put it on Twitch. Yo Meg. Right. Okay, I'll get the raid ready here on this side. It's been created. Oh, of course I've got an advert. Ugh.
Of course there's an ad.
Yeah. All right. Well, getting ready. Wait. I'll kid it over here. Once there. It's still going. What the hell? How many ads you got up there, Yo-Yo? All right, 5 seconds of ads. By the time I'm through this ad, it'll. All right, there she is. All right, let's have a quick listen and see what she's doing. I always can't get over her hair. I'm always jealous of people with afros, Algared.
Yeah.
It's a hairstyle
got
you and
good
I,
hair.
yeah, it's hair you and I will never be able to pull off.
I can never, mate, I can't even pull off your hairstyle.
All right. Let's, Twitch say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube will say goodbye to Twitch. We'll see you next week. Twitch.
Bye, guys.
And they're gone. All right. Let's see how they take it.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna bring my drone when I come up there.
Dude, are you for real?
Yes.
That's gonna be sick.
While we on the boats, I'll have it hovering
Yes.
over.
Oh, 69 viewers. Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Bro, I'm trying to be a problem. My quantum pool is at 25%. I just filled up.
Right, looks like the.
Goody. 0707.
Yeah. Looks like they're doing a good.
Yes, I just paid for it.
They're doing some cargo hauling. All right, we'll leave them be.
Yeah.
Right.
Switch it.
I've got to cut the sound off, otherwise it keeps playing.
I am messing around
and-
with this.
No worries, Phoebes. See, you highlighted, so we say, yeah, we
Yep.
saw your message.
Yep. So if you highlight that, we can definitely see it. So yeah. Yeah, Luna Maria, thank you very much. Right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. I am struggling to speak, sir, at the moment.
You are.
It's hot in here. Right. We will have, what's out this week, Algared? Starlancer.
We're doing,
Starlancer
we're gonna do
Max will be out this week, I think.
Mhm. And then we're also going to do the Super Hornet.
That's a
kind of
supplemental. Yeah. Right. With
Because we expect it to be short.
Yep.
We hope it's short.
And any of you that want to catch me in about an hour and 40 minutes, I'll be on StarJump stream. He is on both Twitch and YouTube. You'll see him over on the browse section in Twitch anyway. On YouTube, you can just search StarJump.
And
the big star logo.
very quickly, Waffle Insanity. The giveaway is linked to the ship tier.
Yep. I'll bring it back up.
Go there.
I'll bring it up. So this video here on our YouTube channel, it is the tier list 2025 show. All you have to do is leave a comment, and we will do a random. Yep, and we'll probably draw that at the end of the month. Right. Anything else, Algared?
On that note, nope.
Right. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.